This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, let's do this. Great to be back, everybody, and great to have you all with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. What's going on? Andrew Hustler Paterson with you. Back from a few days at beautiful Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Been talking about it all summer. It was well, it's always been the best 3 days of the year, to be perfectly honest. And once again, we had just an absolutely amazing time. Want to give a big thanks right off the bat to Pitt and Julie Darrin and Pat and Janelle Trudell for the incredible hospitality. The boys and I went up, had a great time fishing, great time back at the lodge. And man, considering the way the last year and a half has gone, it was a long time coming. So right off the bat, thanks to them. And a big thanks to two great friends of Winnipeg Sports Talk that stepped in while I was away. Brandon Rowicki with a great episode on Friday. And of course, the sports rabbi himself, Matt Leibel, who popped in yesterday in my absence. And I will say this, I wasn't sure whether I would be back in time on Monday. And, just to make sure, we got Matt in, but I was sort of hoping to jump on the program, talk about the news coming out of the weekend with the Jets protected list. But it was a damn good thing we had Matt ready to go because due to the forest fires, we basically hung around for 4 hours yesterday waiting for the smoke to dissipate for the plane to be able to come in to pick us up. So thanks so much to the guys. Did an amazing job. Can't wait to have them back on the program to talk with myself as well. And of course, the guy making it all happen while I was away for a couple days is Michael Remis, the CTO. We'll bring him in, but just as before we do it, big thanks to all of our sponsors making Winnipeg Sports Talk happen every day. Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Boston Pizza, Not Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug Brewing, Breezy Bend Country Club. Got another big win for a Breezy member at the AM. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, live racing tonight. Looking forward to making up for some missed picks yesterday. And of course, Cool Bet Canada. Now, we do have a huge show today. Lots of talk about the expansion draft tomorrow. Friday is the NHL draft. And Winnipeg's Carson Lambos, Winnipeg Ice defenseman, top-rated WHL draft defense prospect, is going to join us as well. Expected to go somewhere in the first round. Looking forward to having him jump on in just a few minutes. After that, the Hare himself, Jim Toth, will pop on. We'll talk Jets, we'll talk expansion draft, and much more. And we're also going to have Darrin Bauming, Bonspire Sports TV, kick it with us after 2 p.m. if you're watching live on YouTube right now, as Bombers had to cancel practice today, outdoors at least. We'll find out more as to whether they went inside, as well as a new kicker on the way to Winnipeg, which is sort of an interesting development considering we talked about 100 players coming to camp, but only one kicker. That was Mark Leggio. Now some competition with the veteran Tyler Carpena coming in. So we'll get to all of that coming up. Lambos, Toth, Bauming. So much to get to on the Winnipeg Sports docket today. But let's get to it with Michael Remis. And as I welcome in everybody here, yes, I did see you, Stickster, besmirching me, saying I was holding up pictures of other people's fish. No, we did. We caught a ton. It was... as I said, well, I'll fire some pictures out, but if you do want to go to my Instagram or my Twitter at Hustlerama, got a few of the better ones that we've got out there, a few double headers with the boys. And at the end of the day, it is a hard to describe just how great of a place Aikens Lake is and as great of a time that we had. But Michael Remis was working for the weekend, holding it down. Remo, great to talk to you again. As I said, thanks to the guys that filled in, but a big thanks to you for keeping the show going while I ditched off for a couple days.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be back, or happy that you're back safely after, the delayed flight. yesterday. Nice to seeing you posting pictures of other people's catches on social media, Hess. Way to go.
It's like Dom, Zolt, and Mo will love that. They'll all be, if they were on right now and not working, they'd probably be in here to take credit for those. However, I can tell you, those, if I was holding it, I caught it. We did catch a ton over the course of the week.
It's like when you walk down the street and you see a nice car and pose in front of it and then just pop it on the gram, Huss. Well done. That's my favorite. That might be my favorite, message in the chat today so far. So that's a good one. Thank you everyone for hopping in. Fun with Libel and Ruicki, but nice to have you back and your solid home internet connection. Thank you everyone who put up with Libel on his vacation setup. I joked it was like he was in a hostage video.
Well, as I said, if you're listening to the podcast, hopefully that didn't come up, and shout out to the patience of everyone with us here. One of the other reasons, and you will know well this, I mean, I really wanted to pop on the program, even if I had to come in later on. And I'm not going to call this a victory lap, Remis. However, I really do think it was this show in episode 12 where the conversation on could Logan Stanley have actually played his way into a position where he'd be protected by the Winnipeg Jets. Like, that conversation sort of started in that chat with Murat. And if you haven't seen it, obviously everything's still available on YouTube. If you're interested in that conversation in mid-March, I guess, around the 22nd, 23rd, after Stanley had been back in the lineup for about a week, I went back and listened to it last night, and it was pretty interesting. I mean, sort of the line of thinking that I had, the conversations, throwing it around, bouncing it back and forth with Murat. And Remo, I mean, in a lot of ways, that actually pretty much came as, I expected back then. What they had put into Logan Stanley, the growth that he'd shown this year, and again, I know there was a big conversation about where he played in the lineup and, was on the third pairing and whatnot. But I mean, I think Logan Stanley exceeded everybody's expectations. And I mean, he is such a unique player with unique size and skill set that I just don't think the Winnipeg Jets were willing to give up on that. And listen, it's made it was a very difficult decision, I'm sure. I mean, this is absolutely no knock at Dylan DeMello. I think every Winnipeg Jet fan is hoping that there is a way that, the Winnipeg Jets don't have to go replace Dylan DeMello on the blue line. But certainly, as we saw here when we did the live polls on the chat, I think it ended up being about 72% of fans that were with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk that, wanted to protect Logan Stanley, about 28 for Dylan DeMello. But I would say 100% of Jet fans are hoping both those guys will be members of the team. And Remo, we're going to find that out tomorrow night when the Seattle Kraken officially announce their expansion picks. And that's going to lead right into a lot of draft talk as to the young players being selected by NHL teams on Friday night.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the expansion draft. Maybe more excited for this draft than the Stanley Cup final or hockey in a while. I mean, I think it's going to be an event. I think Sean Kemp and Gary Payton going to be assisting and making some of these picks. I know some Seattle
and Marshawn Lynch, Macklemore. They're really getting all the who's who.
Mariners, Kyle Lewis, they couldn't get Griffey. He was just at the MLB All-Star game. They couldn't. Kyle Lewis, Rookie of the Year, was the only guy they could get. I am rocking the Mariners with the green for the Kraken. They'll be unveiling their jerseys as well. So I think it's exciting. A new team in the league. The divisions will finally have even numbers, and we'll know the players. And we see the list of names, but I think a lot of these names are going to get picked, and then I think traded immediately. And which ones those are, we will wait and see. But as far as it relates to the Jets, I think a lot of people would rather them take Kraken take Appleton. I know Frank said on his Daily Face-Off podcast that he thinks Appleton is a slam dunk. I've seen some other people say DeMello. I think it really is a coin flip. It depends on where you want to go elsewhere. Appleton, very reasonable salary. He can get you middle six production. DeMello, very steady, maybe will cost you a bit more. I think there are a number of defensemen who cost up there. As far as cheap forwards, I don't know if there are as many. I guess it depends on who you ask. So we'll just have to wait and see Wednesday night. And it's going to be ESPN's first, job as the new national broadcaster.
I forgot about. I didn't even think about that. So this is now on the ESPN clock. NBC. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, NBC's done. ESPN, Sportsnet, NHL Network, all collaborating. I guess that's how they're going to do it going forward. So we'll see who their new, who they have. I know John Boochcross was tweeting like videos of their Zoom preparation for it. So I'm looking forward to that too. So I will be tuned in and watching this expansion draft very closely.
Well, it's funny. Waiters just popped in the chat. What up, Waiters 27? There's a video today that shows Kevin Weeks announcing Alex Kerfoot for Seattle. Now, you sent that over to me, and essentially it's in that famous Seattle fish market.
Yeah, the Pike Market.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's where they throw the massive fish. I mean, every time Monday Night Football goes there, they do a big intro of guys whipping around these massive fish. Kind of reminded me of me on the weekend at Aikens Lake, but I digress. Kevin Weeks is there with one of the fish guys, and they throw a fish in almost like it's got the pick, and then they read out that, they're taking Alex Kerfoot from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, listen, I'm not sure. Like, I don't think the Kraken have gone forward and, made, I don't think they've had to make all their decisions. It's not like they get 2 days of production to do it. So what'll be interesting, Remis, if they actually did, okay, we take Kerfoot, and then there's McCabe, and then there's Travis Dermott. They do it for all the players, and then when they find out who the picks are, they throw that one in. But needless to say, there's a lot of people on the internet assuming that Alex Kerfoot is already a member of the Seattle Kraken because of an internet video that's floating around on social media.
Yes, here is that internet video. I think I might have muted it. But anyway, they're bringing the fish in. That guy catches the fish. And they're reading it out, Alex Kerfoot. Now, like, they just showed... the Kraken after us tweeted, now that's just one of the takes that we did. You didn't see the other takes. Well, why didn't we see the other takes? Well, where are the other takes, Hess? There's no videos of other takes. Like, show them. Let's see. So I have no idea. I don't think that they would, like, do it in public and have this tweeted out. So maybe there are other takes, but you think if there was a Jared McCann take, Huss, they would have it out there. So
yeah, well, again, it might have just been the person doing one video. I'm not sure what the origin of this. Put it this way, I'm not sure. We'll have to check CoolBet. I'm not sure if there's any expansion props going on.
What's cool? CoolBet's got to get on it, Huss. You got to put in a word. Be like, where's the expansion props? I want to bet if they're taking Carey Price. I want to bet if Tarasenko's getting picked. I see other books offering it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a feeling that will be something that, maybe will come up probably in a limited. That's got to be a difficult thing to handicap. I mean, man, if you're one of those guys that sets lines, I mean, I don't know how you know what would be interesting? Let's set our own line here, and maybe we'll do it for tomorrow. I'm going to have to think about this. But let's just assume that this decision for the Seattle Kraken is going to come down to Mason Appleton or Dylan DeMello. But what's the line? Who's the favorite to be selected? I mean, it depends on who you talk to. Mm-hmm. And this all goes back to, my initial, the theory, the conversation about protecting Logan Stanley. I think that Logan Stanley, with the potential that he has and what he's shown so far coming out of his rookie season, would have been an automatic selection. Listen, you could miss on a few, but the high end of what the player could turn out to be, I think that's a big reason why, the Jets are keeping him and not putting him exposed, because I think that he would be automatically selected. I mean, Dylan DeMello is a heck of a defenseman and will help the Kraken or would help another team if he was traded there. And then you add in Mason Appleton with the season that he had last year, making less than $1 million under team control when his contract comes up. I mean, there's some advantages to taking both players. But obviously the usage of those players, I mean, I don't think Mason Appleton would be picked to be traded. Dylan DeMello could be, though. So I don't know. Remo, where are you at right now? I mean, it was interesting. You mentioned the thing with the Gregor and Saravelli. Frank was adamant that he thought it would be a quick decision for the Seattle Kraken to go with Mason Appleton. You just pop into that middle six and see where he goes from there. I think you really do have to evaluate the other defensemen available over the course of the expansion draft to figure that one out. But as far as Appleton or DeMello, I mean, who do you think would be the favorite right now as we speak on this Tuesday, 30 hours or so before we're going to hear the picks?
That's so hard. I think it's really even. think Appleton maybe because he's cheaper. I think there's other defensemen. Frank kind of swayed me with that one. So I'm going to go with Frank. And that was Frank's what he's heard from front office people. But I've also seen people take Appleton. But I think, you know what, he's the cheaper contract, the guy who can produce, 10 to 15 goals for Appleton. That's what maybe you could project for him over 82 games. I mean, that's a really strong pick. So maybe go him, or do they go try to reunite? I know DeMello played with Brandon Dillon in San Jose, and we're a pretty solid pair. Do you want to try to bring those guys together? There's a couple defensemen on Washington there's a couple teams where it's like, who do you pick out of these guys? Tampa. I was like, who do you pick from Tampa? They have a number of strong players, so I am looking forward to seeing how this team looks.
Yes, everyone in chat, you're exactly right. It is time for a poll. Now, Remo, I don't know whether you want to actually set one up or we just want to say, and no, this isn't who you want to, take your own personal opinion out of it. This is who do you think will be selected? A lot of people I think would prefer, and this is not a knock on Appleton, but I mean, the Jets' needs on defense, I think they're hurt more by the loss of DeMello than the loss of Mason Appleton. But the question is, who do you think the Kraken will select, assuming that there's no deals that the Jets make to, force them not to take those players? It's up right now. Mm-hmm. Hit us in there. Okay, we will revisit this a little bit later on the program.
We did do the poll yesterday. I think Appleton, it was like 58% or something. I forget what it was. But we can just do it every day and see, gauge
It's
everyone's
like taking
opinion.
the temperature. It's like taking the temperature of the current chat. So yeah, if you're with us on YouTube, click on that. While you're doing it, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up. And if you're new and haven't already subscribed, we're just about at 5,000 subscribers. We're going to have some great prizes to give away for everyone. Make sure you have hit that red subscribe button already. All right, so much talk about the expansion draft, but the NHL draft is also on Friday. And in just a second, we're going to bring in a top prospect from the city of Winnipeg and a member of the Winnipeg Ice. Before we do that, I just have to thank a few of our sponsors, including Royal Sports. Yeah, who knows? I got to tell you, depending on what happens in the draft, I have a feeling there might be some hometown people. If things could work out perfectly and our next guest was picked by his hometown team, I have a feeling they'd be running a lot of those early out of Royal Sports. Of course, it is the sports superstore in Winnipeg when it comes to licensed merchandise from the National Hockey League, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, and the world of soccer. Nobody has a better selection and more incredible stock than Royal Sports, not to mention they are the hockey headquarters for the city. Soccer, baseball, and now with so many things to do outside as we enjoy the summer, an incredible selection of bikes, both BMX, mountain bike, e-bikes there. The streetwear and a new expanded fitness section, as well as camping gear. I was very jealous. A couple of the guys I was with had those Yeti mugs, and I did not have one. I was more just rocking the 1919 koozie the entire time, which, by the way, flips down. You can put a 16-ounce can or a 12-ounce can in it. Elite koozie. But Royal Sports has it all right now. Pop down before you head out of town or just getting ready for the weekend to dominate summer with our friends at Royal Sports at 650 Rally Nikkei and 750 Pembina Highway. One thing we did not have out on the island at Aikens Lake was DQ. And I got to tell you, nice that things have cooled down a little bit, but it's always a great day for a blizzard. Pop by any of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQs with you and the family. The DQ at Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. And if you're thinking about having an event or maybe you're attending an event with some friends, be the hero at DQ Manitoba on Instagram, put in an order. You can go pick up one of those great ice cream cakes and everyone will love you for it. And of course, Boston Pizza is open. I think I might be in for a pie and some wings after eating a lot of fish over the course of the weekend. Right now, the new summer menu is on. The patios are back open. The restaurants are in. You can dine with other people. It's been a long time coming. Check out your local Boston Pizza. The honey dill fried chicken sandwich being featured right now, the burger Italiano, and man, these patio cocktails, the Bulldog Margarita Fishbowl, the White Sangria Smash, the Peachy Mojito Royale, and the Galaxy Fishbowl, all waiting for you right now at your local Boston Pizza. All right, we're going to talk more about the expansion draft and the Jets situation with JT coming up in a few minutes, but right now, really looking forward to this conversation. He is a Winnipeg native, Winnipeg Ice defenseman, and is the top-ranked defense prospect from the WHL for Friday night's first round of the NHL Draft. Let's welcome in Carson Lambos to the program. Carson, what is up? It's great to have you here on Winnipeg Sports Talk in your hometown. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You know, it's funny. I think back, I'm not sure if you remember this. This is not the first time we have done an interview. I think you came in studio with us back, well, geez, this would be at least 3 years ago. I want to say you were 14 or 15 representing Manitoba. I'm not sure whether it was the Canada Games or one of the big Hockey Manitoba events, but it's great to have you back. And obviously, lots of things have sort of changed. The last 3 years have been quite a whirlwind for you, especially when you account for what the pandemic has done to the path of young men like yourselves to Friday's NHL Draft.
Yeah, definitely lots of things have changed since then, and I'm happy with where I am. A lot of it's been pretty crazy past couple of years, but I'm excited for what's ahead.
Well, what's ahead is hearing your name called at some point. Before we talk about the draft itself, you know, this was such a strange year, you know, with and you, like a few individuals, took an opportunity and actually played over in Europe for a while, and then came back, played a couple games with the Ice, and then you know, condition brought you out. Tell us about kind of what you've been through this year, going to Finland, and just how strange of a draft year it's been for you.
Yeah, it's been insane. Going over to Finland and experiencing the other side of the world for the first time, and getting to see a different culture, playing a different style of game was eye-opening, and it was a great life experience for me. But also, you know, whenever it was crazy when I found out I wasn't going to be able to play anymore, and for the rest of the season. So, a bit heartbreaking news there, but I'm glad that I made a full recovery. I'm just moving forward with what I got.
Tell us about the Finland experience. How did it come about? I find, you know, every word in Finnish has about 22 letters and 20 of them are consonants. I mean, what was that like? Tell us about the hockey as well as just what life was like there, moving over to a new spot. You know, still about 17 years old.
Yeah, the language barrier was evident the whole time. I didn't really pick up too many words. Like you said, it's a pretty tough language, and I didn't pick up too much. But playing on the bigger ice, and you know, it's a little bit of a different style. More of a possession game, and it's a little bit different, like closer to soccer than it is to hockey. It feels at times, but it was good for me to see that and to experience it, and I learned a lot from it, and I think I added a lot to my game because of it.
Well, and I guess you played a couple games with the men. You played in the junior program as well. I mean, aside from the obvious with the size of the rink, how different was the hockey, and was it a challenge for you? And did it help you when you came back, albeit only getting to get a couple games in with the Ice before your season was over?
Yeah, I think there's some things that help my game, and I think I fit to that big ice well. But a couple of things that, you know, were tough for me to adjust to and adapt to. But I think there's some things that the big ice called for that were good for me, and others not so much. So take the good with the bad.
So you come back, there's all this excitement about, you know, and listen, I mean, you were frankly one of the lucky ones when you compare to, you know, other players your age. I mean, there was a very few number of elite players that, you know, have the opportunity to go over to Finland in the midst of a pandemic. You know, it seemed like the WHL did what they did to finally get into a bubble, and then you come and play a couple games and had to leave. I mean, what can you tell us about all that, and how disappointing was that for you, considering the amount of wait time you had to get back on the ice with your Winnipeg Ice teammates, and what a big part of that squad you've been for the last few years?
Yeah, it was certainly difficult. You know, going through a quarantine, coming back from overseas, and just looking forward to it so much, and then it being cut short was very, very hard and tough. But like I said, I'm glad that it's all behind me now, and I can just move on forward. But it was certainly hard times for me.
How are you feeling now? How is the health? Is there anything lingering from what you've been through, or are you feeling great, ready to go? And if there was a game tomorrow night, you'd be putting on the skates and ready to fire it up.
Yeah, like you said, I'd be ready to go tomorrow. We're ready to go tonight, and yeah, no more issues as far as my health goes. And I'm 100%.
So Carson, I'm interested. I mean, we've sort of, like 2 years ago, we were talking about you on our program with some of the other draft scouts. And, they identify these kids at 15 and 16. And we knew you'd be, a player that would be probably talking to a lot of NHL teams this summer, getting ready for the draft. Normally, there's a combine that has everyone go to it. There's meetings. And I'm sure you've sort of, even as a 16-year-old, you knew what the path is. What is the draft prep been like for you? What have you been able to do? What hasn't happened this year? And then we'll kind of get into maybe some of the conversations you've had with people, because I'm sure there's been tons of meetings, albeit not a lot of things happening on the ice.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the draft prep is getting kind of questionnaires and interviews with team scouting staff and team psychologies and personality tests and a lot of things like that. So it's pretty busy, but I'm trying to enjoy it, and yeah, lots of conversations with teams like that.
Now, Carson Lambos is with us, Winnipeg Ice defenseman, a top prospect for Friday's first round of the NHL Draft. In the past, we have heard, and I haven't heard as much of it this year, but maybe it's something, NHL teams have done, maybe they've changed their ways, but like some really weird lines of questioning and things like that. I mean, how would you categorize the conversations you've had with NHL teams? First of all, how many have you spoken to? And is it all pretty much the same thing? Or if, one team kind of asked you some wild stuff and other ones more by the book stuff?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it, by the book. There's a lot of by the book questions from some of the teams. Other ones can venture off a little bit away from hockey and more into life and, interests and things like that. So I never really know what I'm getting into when those start. But yeah, they're definitely different from team to team.
Now, in a normal year, you and your family and your friends would probably already be in the draft city. There'd be some stuff going on for, all the draft prospects. The media would be there. You'd be doing a lot of interviews like this. You'd probably be doing it in person. What are the plans for Team Lambos going in on Friday night when you hope to hear your name called?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to have some family over to my house and watch it on TV and, hope for my name to be called and see what happens. But yeah, just going to spend it with family and try to enjoy the moment, hoping it happens on Friday.
How's your time with the Ice been? It was sort of unique that you were drafted by Kootenay and, one of the top players going into that Bantam draft. And of course, then the Kootenay Ice moved to your hometown. I mean, how well did that work out for you this last season, notwithstanding because of everything the damn pandemic did to screw it all up?
Yeah, the Ice has been so good for me. James Patrick as a coach as a defenseman is been very helpful for me, and we have a great team and a great group of guys. I think we're going to be really competitive this coming year, and we have in the past couple years. So that's makes it a lot more fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, I was doing up some reading on, a bunch of draft prospects, and it has mentioned that your favorite player going up, and this is not a surprise being a Winnipeg kid, was one number 33, Dustin Byfuglien. How much do you pattern your game after Big Buff? He's a bit of a unicorn out there, Carson. I imagine there's some things that you'd love to do and some things that, there's only one guy that can do what Dustin Byfuglien did.
Yeah, I don't think my game is similar to Buff's, but he's just so much fun to watch, and he has so much fun out there, and yeah, like you said, like a unicorn, kind of a one-of-a-kind player, and yeah, his game's so unique, and I always loved watching him growing up, watching the Jets.
Well, speaking of your game, when the scouts have been spending a lot of time watching the games and but a lot of fans, might have seen a game or two, they know the name, but don't know you as much as a player. If people are asking, who is Carson Lambos as a player and what he will bring to a National Hockey League organization, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I think I'm a two-way, well-rounded defenseman. I think I take care of business in my own zone and defend hard and hope to play against the other team's best players, but I also add on offense with a good shot and a good vision of the ice. So I think I have a really well-rounded game and no attributes that really stand head above shoulders above the other ones. So I think that's my game.
Carson, you're from here in Winnipeg. You were a star player in minor hockey. You end up coming back to be part of the Winnipeg Ice when the WHL returns to the city. Have you thought at all about what it would feel like to hear your hometown NHL team, the Winnipeg Jets, call your name on Friday night?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I mean, whichever team's going to pick me, I'm going to be happy. And if any team places their faith in me like that, it would be cool. So, it'd be awesome to play at home and be around family and things like that. But not looking for one team or another. Just whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
We're about, just over 48 hours from the festivities getting going on Friday night. What are the next 2 days like for you? I mean, is it a lot of just nervous waiting around? Do you have any more conversations with NHL teams? You're talking to your agent about stuff, or you're just going to get out with your buddies and go outside and enjoy a little bit of this time before what will be a memorable night, no matter what, on Friday for you, looking forward to your hockey future?
Yeah, it's pretty hush-hush for now. I don't think teams like showing their cards, and they keep them close to their chest. So just, been training and skating and working out, so I'll continue to do that. But, maybe try to get some golf in and try to get my mind off things. But, nothing too crazy for the next couple of days.
What's, let me just ask you, as a young man, and I mean, I feel for, listen, you're going to have some great opportunities going forward, and we're able to do some things this year that a lot of your other, friends and teammates probably weren't to do. But I have to ask you, as a young man your age, what this last, even away from hockey, and, so much of your life is around hockey with the schooling and whatnot, but your friends back here in Winnipeg, what's the last month or so been like for you? Is obviously you've been doing training for the draft and doing some interviews, but finally actually probably being able to see some people that you haven't had for, the better part of, a good section of your high school life.
Yeah, it's been really nice with things kind of opening at the right time here. Getting back into training and seeing friends at the rink, and then on the golf course quite a bit too. And, just kind of getting a little bit back to normal life, which is nice. And I'm enjoying it, and I have fun, kind of getting back to normal.
Well, and hopefully that normal will include hearing your name on Friday night. And, at some point, I would imagine, I know doing previous drafts, essentially they're bringing in their prospects, 2, 3, 4 days afterwards for a development camp. And I imagine different teams will be able to do different things like that. But bottom line is, Carson, good luck on the weekend. I know there's a lot of people that are big fans of yours through your work with the Ice, obviously growing up here in Winnipeg. And I know there's a lot of people in the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat right now on YouTube that are kind of crossing their fingers the Jets might be able to add a high-end defense prospect that calls Winnipeg his hometown. But we'll see what happens. In the meantime, all the best to you and the family. I know it won't be the same as being there and hearing your name called, but it's all going to lead to the same place, and that, of course, is the National Hockey League. And if we're lucky enough to see you back here with the Ice next season, we'll make sure to get you back on the program as well to talk about the future as well as the present, as we finally see the Ice get back on the ice, as it were, here in Winnipeg next season.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me.
Great stuff. Thanks, Carson, and good luck on the weekend. There's Ice defenseman Carson Lambos. I was just looking at Craig Button's mock draft, and this is a tough and listen, you often will have, guys. I'm a big fan of Lambos. He has been, he's a hell of a hockey player. And a guy that, going into this season, many people thought might be, a top 10 pick, one of the top defensemen picked. And, with the health issues that he had coming back from Finland, getting only 2 games in, and I think he's kind of more in the middle of the road. But I believe it was Craig Button's draft mock-up that had the St. Louis Blues picking Lambos 1 pick before the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, he's got Lambos going at 17 to St. Louis, and then the Jets are there at 18. So that's a tough spot right now. It's and listen, I think this draft more than any is almost impossible to predict. Kind of most people expect Owen Power to be the top player picked. We've heard Matty Bernier's, likely, if available, to be to Seattle. But that group of Genther, McTavish, Edmondson, Eklund, Luke Hughes, Brant Clark, Kent Johnson, we've seen mocks of those players going all over the place. And I think the consensus is that we'll see Lambos at some point, probably in the mid-teens to early 20s. I guess the big question for Winnipeg Jet fans, and especially the Jet brass, they would have had more opportunity to see Carson Lambos than probably anybody. If he's available at the Jets pick, does he get selected? Be interesting to see how that goes from here. All right, thanks to Carson. We'll have to get him back on the program afterwards. Real nice, outspoken young man, well-spoken young man, and wish him and certainly all the local products all the best when they get into finally hearing their names called for the NHL draft after certainly probably the most painstakingly difficult lead up to a draft in NHL history. Gonna give a shout out to our friend Trevor Knott over at Knott Auto Corp. Now, in addition to the the great stuff that they do, Trevor is as big of a promoter of Winnipeg as there is. And I just have to note this. He sent out a tweet today. The Time Magazine World's 100 Greatest Places of 2021. You know it. The Peg on the list right now. I retweeted it. It's a really neat thing. They talk about, some of the Inuit art installations and some of the things we have culturally. Doesn't even get to the excitement we have. And Trev said my favorite thing about Winnipeg, I'll go with 3: kind people, lakes, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And that got me thinking about the response for Bomber tickets yesterday when things went up. But if you're thinking about a vehicle, a great family-owned Winnipeg business for a long time here in this city, why not get in and talk to the gang over at Knott Auto Corp at Waverly and McGillivray about getting into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team. Incredible selection there, including a number of Teslas. They've been a Tesla leader in the city for a long time. And if you're in a lease right now or another vehicle, they'll help you get maximum value for it through their very successful consignment program. So you can talk to them all about that over at Knott Auto Corp. And you can find out more on all their services as well, including detailing and service online at knott.ca. And as I mentioned coming on, we had there were plenty of these out at Aikens Lake in the boat and on the water. And that, of course, is the one and only 1919. And listen, this koozie got some great use as well. Because I said, if you've got a 12-ounce can, you just roll it down, and boom, there you go. Think about that. Also available at the Little Brown Jug store. Ordering the great taste of Little Brown Jug's never been easier. Free home delivery in the city of Winnipeg every day. If you order it by 4, you can get it that evening. And it's all there at littlebrownjug.ca. And check out their merch as well while they're there. You're going to want to get some of that 1919. And the summer variety pack, incredibly popular. Right there, the summer lager, my personal favorite. People loving the Hefeweizen as well. It's all there. It definitely, if you're making an order for home delivery, check out that summer variety pack. And even better yet, why don't you go down and try it for yourself at the tap room right now. Open again. All their hours available at littlebrownjug.ca over on William Avenue. You can pop in, have some pizza, and a few delicious cold Little Brown Jugs on the patio now that we're back open. Big thanks to Little Brown Jug. For more information on everything they're going, as well as their community events, get online at littlebrownjug.ca. And for Breezy Bend, I missed yesterday's show. I didn't get a chance to talk about Colin Morkow's incredible victory in the Open Championship. And unfortunately, I didn't really get to see a whole lot of it. I was really sort of getting off the water every day because of the timing and getting updates on what's happened. But what an incredible career Colin Morikawa has. And speaking of a young man that has burst onto the scene with some big victories, got to give a huge shout out to Bracken Kuntz of Breezy Bend, who is now the Manitoba Amateur Champion as well. His second big win this year. And I know everyone at Breezy very, very proud. What a performance. Couple Breezy guys right at the top. Ryan Schuldeis as well. Man, they keep on cranking out incredible junior players out of that club. If you're thinking about a great golfing home for your family next year, breezybend.ca, or give them a call and talk to Corey Johnson about getting that set up for next year. All right, so much to get to. Thanks to Carson Lambos for joining us. It's now time to get back to Jets, expansion talk, and much more. And look who's back with a fresh cut. Jim Toth in the house with a little bit of helmet reduction. You look, dare I say, wonderful. Nice, tight on the sides. Oh. The wings, Jim, got clipped.
Yeah, I needed to lose a little bit of weight there, Huss. So I dropped about 3 pounds on each side of the flow and got it thinned out a bit. My man Eric in Modern Man took care of me, and it was, I got to be honest, nice to get back to the experience of sitting back in a chair. I'm waiting, maybe go get a clean shave. We should do that one weekend. We should all go get clean shaves together. See what happens. See what happens on the streets. Let the streets decide. How are you, man? How was fishing?
I'm doing great. Oh man, fishing was great. It's a special place out there. Just great people, and you know what? Even with because it was hotter than hell. I mean, it was the first couple days. It was 33, 34, and that often will really sort of impact the fishing. It wasn't the case, and we didn't get the monster master anglers, but man, we were killing them. And we'd sort of go in the morning, do shore lunch, and then go in the evening again, and just split the day up, spend some time in the water in the midday. It was much needed, I will tell you that. And obviously went out with the great crew and the great people there from Aikens.
I would think eventually a guy like Mo is just going to stay there, and he'll live in the bush, and you'll never see him again. But that's another show.
Dude, he bought a guide shirt once he was done so he could look like all the guides. And said to Pitt, he goes, "You need me out of the bullpen, you give me a call." He'd be back up there ready to go.
From what I remember about Gabe, he would go to Stampede and come back a cowboy, like a bull rider. So I'm not surprised that he got a guide shirt and he's ready to guide now.
And of course, it gave us a lot of time to kick around thoughts about the Winnipeg Jets, the expansion draft. Such an interesting couple weeks when it comes to how this league is going to look next week, Jim. We spoke about it on the weekend. I made the case, and really been making the case kind of, since March, that I think Logan Stanley was playing himself into a position to be protected, which wasn't even a conversation at the beginning of the season. I know Rewicki and Remo kicked around sort of the DeMello side of things. It was very interesting. I think we had about 72% people in the chat here would prefer to pick Stanley, and that's the way the Winnipeg Jets went. Were you surprised that Stanley was on the protected list at the expense of potentially losing Dylan DeMello, or where did you come around on all that, Jim?
No, it didn't surprise me. I mean, I know when you first started talking about this on your show and keeping Stanley, and I thought, well, I'll wait for a couple more games. He only played 37 this year. But as it wore on, and we have to keep in mind, and Ron Francis in Seattle has already said this, what I've learned more than anything is cap room is gold right now, especially in a cap that's not moving up. It always has been. And I think that's what speaks to some of the guys that weren't protected. It was all big ticket guys and guys at teams like Van Riem's, like in the Flyers. Tarasenko wants out anyway, but Price, all these things weighed into, we need the cap space more than we need potential all-star players right now, if we have a few others. So I was slow. I wanted to see Logan Stanley play a little bit more, but as it wore on and once it got into the playoffs, I was with you. Look, right now, is Dylan DeMello a better all-around defenseman than Logan Stanley? Yes, it is. But when you look at the cap, and I know it's only $3 million, and I think that's a really good price for Dylan DeMello, but I also think that's about what he's worth. Logan Stanley has done exactly what the Jets have said he would do. They said 3 to 4 years. He had a major knee surgery within that time span, and he's become an NHL player. Now, nobody's debating that he's a third-line player right now. What everybody's debating is what he's going to be. And what stood out to me when it finally happened, it was not a surprise to me at all, Huss, but what it said to me was, if we protect DeMello, they're taking Stanley. It's just no question about it. And I think what it speaks to is, and Cheveldayoff would know this, not just what Seattle and Ron Francis and his team out there thinks of Logan Stanley, but what the rest of the league thinks about him. I mean, these are guys that we have to keep in mind, that when these GMs are in the same building and their teams are playing against each other, and you've been in the press box and you see GMs chatting it up in intermissions and before games, this is the stuff they talk about. This is the stuff that one GM would say to another and go, man, that Stanley looks good. Like, you guys waited a long time. Those are the conversations they have. And it's much the same as why I defend Brian Little for so long, is because being in a press box, I hear what scouts for years have said and GMs have said, assistant GMs, and you talk to them and you just ask them, what do you think of Brian Little? And they go, man, I don't know why Brian Little gets this rap in this city. Like, I would love a Brian Little at $5 million on my team. So it doesn't matter what we think. It's that perception out there. So when they did protect Stanley over DeMello, he's 5 years younger right now. His next contract is going to be next to nothing with 37 games on the resume. It's not going to be $3 million per. Eventually he could be, but that's just the situation it is. I know the window is the next 2 years, this year and next year, for the Winnipeg Jets. I know they want to win now, and fans do, and I know how that defense needs some help. but nobody knows what Logan Stanley's going to be. All the debate going around DeMello and Stanley, nobody can sit here and go, in 2 to 3 years from now, Logan Stanley's going to be a third pairing guy. You don't know that based on 37 games. You know what Dylan DeMello is, and it's very good. I like it. But to me, what happened here is I think the Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff thought Logan Stanley will be picked if we don't protect him. There is a chance that Dylan DeMello might not be, and we're going this route. And then you add in the other factors: youth, next contract, cap room, and what he could develop into. And I just think that, and I know it's hard to get players to come to Winnipeg, but I think you can trade for or find a Dylan DeMello. People forget Dylan DeMello re-signed here, and I get that. But he was acquired for a third-round pick, and he was traded twice in 3 years. That's not a knock on DeMello. It's not a knock on what a good defenseman he is. It just means they're more accessible than potential of what Logan Stanley might be.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. And I'll say this. There's a lot of the people that have been banging the drum for DeMello, and I respect the opinions. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot of this was, about what the Jets had invested in this player. I think what they've seen from him in this year and what they think that potential could be, and they don't want to sell on that. I will say this though: some of the loudest critics of this choice were also the same people who had called Logan Stanley a bust, said it was the worst first-round pick the Jets have ever made. And to be honest, there's some serious freezing cold takes material if you go through the timelines of a lot of people that have been bashing this decision.
Well, and I put out on Sunday, and I got like a ton of response that I said most of the people screaming about Logan Stanley's third pairing stats are the same ones who screamed about Neil Pionk when he was traded here. His analytics were horrible. He wasn't going to be very good. Of all the players that they could have got from the Rangers, this guy was better, that guy was better. And we forget that the Jets handpicked Pionk. When it had to be the Rangers had other defensemen in there, and they said, no, if this is going to happen, we need Pionk, and they did it. And look at how Neil Pionk has, and Neil Pionk had 64 more games in the NHL than Logan Stanley did when he came to Winnipeg. And I think Neil Pionk turned out pretty good. I think also that fans are looking at this defense and know how much it needs fixing and how Dylan DeMello makes everybody he plays with better. Like they look at Josh Morrissey and go like, he could make him better. Whoever he's paired with, he can help make better. That's true. But again, look at how Dylan DeMello came to town. Look at how those guys at $3 million are traded for and acquired. And you could potentially bet even somebody bigger. I think there's a plan here. There always is. And the immediate plan of who we protect isn't what the plan is for October. So, and I'm with you. I get it, but there's been some cold takes there too. And for everybody who sends me on Twitter a pie chart of DeMello's stuff and what Logan Stanley's done, the same thing was done for Neil Pionk when he came to this town. And I raised an eyebrow. I'm like, man, this kid was playing first line pairing in New York, and it didn't look good analytically, but look at what Neil Pionk's developed into. And then I go harken back to the final thing about Stanley again. People harp that it's been 4 years of development and that he's 23 years old. I get that, but isn't that exactly what the Jets said it would be? 4 years, wait, blah, blah. So who would know better than the Jets? They literally told you when this guy was going to make the NHL, and then he literally made it when they predicted him to make it. I think the Jets know a thing or two about who they have and what they think the potential is.
Listen, Hillier told us on the draft floor the day he was drafted. And
I remember listening.
Called the shot. 2 years in junior, 2 years in the American Hockey League. Then we'll see what we have. And, they saw that this year. Taylor Miller, one of the queens of the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat, has thrown in a super chat. Thank you very much, Tay. Logan Stanley is the best Jet. Thanks. Taylor has been the president of the Logan Stanley fan club since way back when, so I know she's pumped. But there's some other interesting comments. David Carpenter, that's me, Huss. For 3 years, I thought it was a horrible pick. I was wrong. T. Will says Stanley was always going to be in development for 4 years. That's not a knock on him. D-men take longer to develop, just facts. And then again, this defenseman needed much more. I mean, there's first-round defensemen, and they said this was more of a project going forward. And it seems like that project has turned out. So listen, we know what the decision is now. Logan Stanley's protected. It now comes down to, I think, what most people assume, barring a deal, Jim, and that certainly I think is still very much a possibility that the Winnipeg Jets figure something out with Seattle to potentially keep one of, if not both of the top two players that are exposed. One is Mason Appleton up front. $900,000 a year, coming off a great season where he really established himself as a top 9 forward. And Dylan DeMello, who we've talked a lot about, that is a very important part of this Winnipeg Jet blue line. What do you think, not necessarily who you would want to lose less or anything from a Jet perspective, but when you look at that, look at the players that are available right now, who do you think is more likely to be selected by the Kraken if no deal is made? DeMello on the blue line or Appleton up front?
Well, to me, it really plays out to what, and I look at the Carolina team that Ron Francis built and look at how strong he drafted defensemen and how thick they are in position. But to me, what it really plays into is who else is available. It's the exact same as Carey Price. If you take Ben Bishop and one of those other goalies off the market, I think Carey Price is going to Seattle. But this is a deep goaltender market. Holtby, Bishop, the guy, Drieger, the Winnipegger from Florida. So I don't know if they take on that ticket. And I look at the same way here. If there were some of the names that weren't on the blue line, and there's about 12 of them that they would pick, and Dylan DeMello's in there, and say there's only 8 or 9 of those, I think Dylan DeMello is as good as gone. But I look at the defensemen available. I look at the price of those defensemen. I do think they go Mason Appleton. I think that he's a 200-foot player. I think Ron Francis likes the price of it. And I think he likes, much like the Jets and the potential of Logan Stanley, I think Ron Francis will love the potential in Mason Appleton. His next contract's not going to be that big. And let's face it, there's a lot of talent available in this, but you have to have some penalty killing. And Mason Appleton can kill penalties and is probably pretty close to being elite at it already, but he will get there. So in my opinion, just because there are a few other Dylan DeMello's available, and it wouldn't surprise me who's taken. Like you said, this is just sort of either one a guy. I think it's pretty obvious to everybody. If it's DeMello, people wouldn't be surprised. And if it's Appleton, people wouldn't be surprised. But I do think it's Mason Appleton just because of the core defense that is available. They also have a draft, which, if you look at the top 5, top 10 in predictions, there's defensemen there. So I do think they're going to go Mason Appleton. I think they like the contract price. I think what the next contract will cost them. I just think he looks like a Ron Francis player. But again, like maybe, hey, what's the plan? Like, do they want to draft 12, 13 D-men and flip 3 of them? Then that's a great take Dylan DeMello. Dylan DeMello would be a great trade chip. But I just think he looks at Appleton. I look at the forwards available, and I think he would fit right in there and could play in the top 6 or in the top 9, and you could pick and choose.
Well, and you know what? You bring up a great point on the cap. And this is why I don't think Carey Price is getting picked, because he's just too darn expensive. And, how does that contract look in year 3, year 4, year 5? Like, he is coming off an amazing playoffs, but if you look at the bigger picture, there's regular season numbers, you wonder, although he'd be an incredible face of the franchise right off the bat.
But they don't need that. I'm with you on that. But Seattle, when you look at the fever and already the merchandise and the ticket sales and all that, they don't. And I heard, I think it was Frank Cervelli or somebody else, or maybe it was Matt Larkin from the Hockey News. He talked to George McPhee, and he said, we never drafted Marc-Andre Fleury to be the face of the franchise. We drafted him because we needed him as a goaltender. I don't think they need that extra marketing, but it sure does help if it was Carey Price. But I'm with you. Sorry to cut you off. But a lot of people have told me about the marketing aspect, and I'm with them. I know we played in Tri-City and all that. But they don't need to sell tickets in Seattle for probably the next 5 years.
Ron Francis is not making a pick based on what the marketing department is telling him. I'll tell you that. I mean, he's going to do it that gives him the best chance. But the reason I bring that up, and this goes back to even a simple decision like Appleton versus DeMello, they're going to have to get to the cap floor, and they'll be able to do that. There's some players out there with tickets that maybe could end up being traded again. That Tarasenko is a perfect example. Every $1 million they don't spend that they have available to them, and this is why I think they'll come in right around that cap floor, gives them cap space to deal with. And honestly, Jim, when you think about some of the situations that NHL teams are in right now, starting with the Stanley Cup champs, there are teams that have no other choice but to rid players or rid salary. And for Francis's perspective, to have all that cap room, when you're building for the future or getting other assets or players, that to me might be the most valuable thing that he has coming out of the expansion draft for future deals as we get towards free agency and teams need to revamp their rosters and make things work on a flat cap when many teams already exposed over the number without enough contracts signed for next year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And he's already mentioned that. And I don't think necessarily this year even. I think like they could fight for the playoffs with the players that are available. And then next year and the year after, they could sit there and go, you know what, I don't think Blake Wheeler's going anywhere, but I'll use that as an example. You want to eat $3 million of that $8 million? I'll take him at 35 and pay him $5 million to play on our team, because now I know what we got and I've created this cap space. Like, let's be honest. I think the other thing that's not being talked about enough is that Vegas doesn't have to give up a player. The NHL, for the way they screwed up expansions in the past with the Tampa Bays and the Nashvilles and how it took them so long to get competitive, San Jose and all that, they've done the opposite here and screwed this up. They are making legitimate playoff teams in expansion, and then they're also benefiting them 3, 4 years, 5 years down the road. So, I mean, it's a lot of people might say like taking on in Seattle is that Ron Francis could pick and choose where he wanted to be a GM. It is a great thing, as we've seen in Vegas, and it's a great thing now in Seattle to be a GM in the expansion era. But I'm with you. Like, I think they build a team, and I think they hit the ice. And then I think this cap space comes into play next season, the year after that, where they go, you know what, I'd love that player, but not at $8 million or $7.5 million, but I'll take him at $4 million if you want to eat that $3 million, and let's do it that way. So I think a lot of that's going to go on. And to be honest with you, as much as I think the NHL has screwed up overpaying these expansion teams with the gifts they're giving them, I'm fascinated by it and how they work it all out. So I'm all here for it.
Listen, dude, I would not be surprised. Like, I think you will probably see a number in the low 60s when they finish the expansion drafts. And I'll tell you what, come next year, or like come puck drop, I wouldn't at all be surprised if we had the Seattle Kraken might have 15, 16 million in dead cap money coming from deals that they've made to take on contracts or bury cap mistakes of other teams to their benefit going down the road, whether with players now or picks in the future.
And still be a playoff team. Like doing that kind of business on the side and still be in the postseason or whatever. I got to bring on Junior here.
Oh, yes. Special okay, guest star.
My girlfriend has a Zoom meeting, but this is young Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
So his mom's got to go have a Zoom meeting now. And you remember, your listeners and viewers won't, but you remember Hunter. He bought this hat the other day.
Oh, Hunter, you're the man. That is the Chiefs Super Bowl lid.
And he saw it on your lid on one of your shows, and he's like, I got to have that. And I said, well, you got to find a new place to live, too, because this is a Bears house. But he got it anyway. So
he's a smart young man, Hunter. I'll look forward to having. We'll talk Mahomes at some point this season as we get ready for the season. Well, this is great. If anyone was doubting whether the child was yours, I'm just looking at this uncanny resemblance, not to mention the incredible head of hair. Folks, if you're listening on the podcast, this is going to be a nice tease to go in and check out the YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, because Jim's little guy, how old is he now? Is he a year yet?
He was 10 months on the 16th. So he's going to be a year in September.
Well, that is phenomenal. This is great. Yeah. I mean, I haven't been able to pop over and see it because of the damn pandemic, so it's great to finally meet and everyone else here.
I was going to say, we killed some GP, our friend and I killed some little brown jugs on the patio by the hot tub, the Aquatech hot tub, by the way, which has just been drained and refilled, waiting for your arrival, Huss. And so it was good to see him, and we'll have to get him over too, because I know that you've been interested to see Thomas. So there he is for the world to see. I'm usually way more private than this, but here's my child.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's only the internet, Jim. You know,
yeah, it's only the internet. What could go wrong?
all good. Uh-oh. All good. Well, listen, pal, we're going to talk Bombers going forward and all that. It seems like you've got a lot on your hands, but this is a great way to sort of finish everything off. Let me just quickly ask you, and we're going to get into this with Bauming coming up, but man, what an incredible response from Bomber fans yesterday with tickets going on sale. I mean, we knew that this was a long time coming and it would be special when fans could get back, but the fact that this could be a full house, 100% of double vaccinated fans is going to be, to me, this is going to be the event that sort of hopefully symbolizes the coming out of the pandemic and getting back together. And what a night that's going to be for the Bombers and the Canadian Football League. I
wasn't surprised at all by the response. And let's not forget, there's going to be a banner unveiling and a Grey Cup championship to celebrate. And that's what we talked about for years, even on the big show with Troy and Wiki is when this pandemic hit is like whenever the Bombers do hit the field again, you just hope there's some fans there to see that banner go up and celebrate the championship. But I'm not surprised by the response. And, we were talking about it. I said we had GP over here, our good friend, and he said, how do you think the Bombers will do this year? And do you think it's too many vets and having this much time off? And I'm like, well, you look at the injuries, and there was a big one for the Bombers. But I said, I think the opposite. In a shortened season, if you can bring back these vets and you can keep the nucleus together, I think it gives you a better shot than trying to break in a bunch of newer guys. So I like what I've read and seen from the Bombers so far this year. I think it's going to be a great night on the 5th and a great night of August with that many home games. Everybody knows that you want to go to IG Field and catch the Bombers in the summertime when it's nice and hot out. So I'm excited for the CFL season, and so is Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you say I had a
Thomas is hoping that Mike O'Shea drops off one of those celebrating cigars and we can hand them out as well. That's what you do when you have a baby.
Well, with the size of him and considering the size of you, I have a feeling there's a few high school football coaches that are making a note in 14 years. Check in on that Toth kid going forward.
Well, by all means, recruit him because I gotta live till I'm 147 and work to pay for this guy. So I do gotta run though, Huss. I'm real sorry, but
no, listen, man, this was awesome. Say shout out to Hunter, best dressed cameo we've had yet on this program, and great to see the little guy. We'll do this again very soon, pal. All the best. I can see you've got your hands full. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, pal, and all the best to you and your listeners and watchers, and enjoy the expansion draft tomorrow.
Right on. There is the man himself, Big Daddy Jim Toth. What a cute little guy. We got to see the debut of the double T on the program. And Hunter with his Chiefs hat. Let's get Remis in here. You know what, Remis, sometimes we joke and we have had some people that have said, hey, where did you get that hat or whatever? But, for me to be influencing the youth of our community to pick up a Super Bowl champion Chiefs hat was that's one of my personal Winnipeg Sports Talk highlights so far to this point, I'll be honest.
Yes, Huss. Wow. I didn't know that you had that influence on our youth. Congratulations.
Well, you know what it's like being a YouTuber now, Reem? We have talked about this. I mean, if you ask kids in 2021, what do you want to be when you grow up? What is your goal in life? Mm-hmm. Number one on that list is to be a YouTuber. So, I mean, I think we were being sold short in the world of AM radio. And now we're just bringing the message to... the next generation of sports fans here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
You tell people you're on the radio that now they say, what the hell is that? You tell kids you're on YouTube and have a podcast, their ears perk up, they get excited. So yes, blazing the way here, and great to see so many people in chat. I know a lot of people went on holidays for Canada Day, but a big week for hockey news, expansion draft, free agency, the NHL draft as well. So we're all fired up, and yeah, we are. Roger Quinnell in chat says we're approaching 5K subs, so hit that sub button. We're less than 30, man. The countdown is on. Maybe we can hit it this week and fire off the confetti.
Well, we will be firing off confetti, and we'll be firing off some prizes from some of our sponsors as well. So yes, if you haven't already, and you're with us on YouTube, or you're listening on the podcast and haven't checked out the YouTube, do us a favor, get there, type in Winnipeg Sports Talk. You'll see it right there. Hit that red subscribe button. Let us get to that next milestone of 5,000 subs, and we'll do some great contests and prizing from some of our great sponsors on that. And while you're with us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. It certainly helps us spread the channel as well. And it's just very simple. If you're watching on your phone or on a mobile device, you just have to close the chat, hit that, and you can get that right back in. I will say, Reem, the surprise appearance by young Thomas Toth really got people going. And that is one of the great things that you'd never be able to see just listening to the audio side of it. But it was a nice little cameo by the little guy. He most certainly does have Jim's lid. That is incredible hair for a human being under the age of 1.
Yeah, great hair.
You've got one too, actually. We may have to have a hair off between Evan and Thomas as they get older.
My kid also has a nice head of hair. He's turning 2 in a couple weeks, so I don't think I could have him on camera. He would not sit still. So I was pretty impressed. We did have a great question though from Shark Mifley in chat. Great name. He said, "What is Jim in a screened-in porch, veranda, gazebo?" I was like, "Sunroom." Pergola? What do you call that thing? We may have to get some clarification from Jim on what they call that in the Toth household.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, that was some great stuff. Hey, listen, I mentioned this earlier, but man, we had such an incredible weekend over at Aikens Lake. If you haven't, and things are going to get busy. I mean, just hearing the joy in their voices when we heard that the border's opening up on August 9th. I mean, for anybody that's involved in a tourism type business with many customers from the United States, that has been a godsend. So they're going to be quite busy for the next couple months. But listen, if you are thinking about, just a world-class fishing experience right here in Manitoba, maybe thinking about making a booking for next year if you'd like. Find out more at aikenslake.com, or you can hit up our good friend Pitt Terren on Twitter at Aikens Lake on Twitter. And of course, Assiniboia Downs live racing continues. A couple things from this that I should mention, with the details of the of everything getting released, the health code changes. We're going to be able to get some fans in there. Now, reservations are still allowed. You can be up on the second floor grandstand, and the VLTs are now open again from 9 a.m. until 12:15 every day. We'll look forward to getting Darrin done on hopefully closer to the Manitoba Derby to see what that might means going forward. And we'll be in touch to see if we can get a bit of a Winnipeg Sports Talk night with a bunch of kids, a bunch of the gang getting together out at the track. In the meantime, though, you can bet with us every night at hpibet.com, and we'll get to our selections for tonight's races before the end of the program. We'll also get to some cool bet lines. We do have NBA Finals Game 6 tonight. We'll see whether the Bucks can do the reverse sweep, lose the first two, and then rattle off 4 in a row. Giannis, listen, I'm such a big fan of Antetokounmpo, and he has been incredible after it looked like injury might cost him and his team an opportunity to win the championship. So we'll get to the lines on that a little bit later on. But just coming up in, probably 5 minutes or so, Reem, we are going to discuss the latest with the Blue Bombers. And, the Bombers also feeling the heat today from the smoke. They haven't done anything yet today, unfortunately. They've had to cancel practice. Just talking to Darrin Cameron, they can run walkthroughs inside, but that's pretty much the extent of it. And unfortunately for the Blue and Gold, likely the same for tomorrow because of the smoke conditions we've got here. I mean, we had a tough time getting a plane out of Aikens yesterday, but this smoke situation with the forest fires running throughout this area really being problematic for people with breathing conditions, but also for a professional football team trying to get ready for a massive Grey Cup rematch on the 5th of August.
Yeah, I've been making the joke, because of the heat. So Winnipeg, you can't go outside in the winter, you can't go outside in the summer, and it's even more true now with this smoke. We heard about forest fires in California and BC, but here in Manitoba, we have our own now. And I know my slow pitch league has decided to cancel the game tonight. If you can't gather indoors, and now I mean outdoors with this smoke. You need masks for the pandemic and, to breathe clean air.
Yeah, I thought we were done with these damn masks.
Yeah, I thought it, yeah. So if anyone, I got to keep mine to wear it outside. I got a sick filter on that thing. So I don't know what kind of world we're living in now, but hopefully, this calm down soon. It was nice to get some rain this morning, and I did see the forecast has some rain, I think tomorrow. It says there's a strong chance of rain tomorrow, and this afternoon we might get some more rain. So I think that's definitely good. A lot of people need this rain coming up.
No doubt about it. Hey, I got to say a special hello to somebody on chat. My old pal, Kevin Matchett, Winnipeg guy, former Moose employee. He's been out in Southern Ontario for a long time, working with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Just made a crack at one of our old buddies, PT, now that VLTs are open. But Match, great to have you joining us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And of course, we got a big football game on August 5th between the Ticats and the Blue Bombers to kick off the CFL season. As I mentioned, Darrin Bauming is going to join us coming up in just a few minutes. The other thing, Remis, coming out of this that DC had mentioned to me in the text, that thousands of tickets sold yesterday and going really strong again today. I pulled up the Ticketmaster map yesterday night when I got back of tickets. Shout out to our friend Andrea, who got the whole crew set up right when they went on sale yesterday. But I'll tell you what, if the early indications are from ticket sales yesterday and today, we're going to have a sold out building. We're damn close to it. For the 5th of August. And I can't think of any better way for the Bombers, for the Canadian Football League, and frankly, just people here in our community that love the Bombers and have been wanting to get back out on the stadium, to the stadium as fans since the Grey Cup win. What a special night that's going to be here in Winnipeg for all parties involved.
Yeah, look at a lot of the good seats taken up, some seats available in the corners. Look at this. I can pull it up right here. How awesome is this? So you can there's still some seats left, but I would say they're going quick and pretty affordable, Huss. What is that, $32 for a seat for the home opener? It's pretty.
Get in there, folks.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So we'll have to count down and see. It's going to be a great start to the Bomber season, and we'll be talking about it more as we go forward, and we'll have to make our CFL fantasy selections each week as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, man, I am absolutely looking forward to that. Here's a little bit more from the guys at 3 Down Nation who have been doing a great job. Justin Dunk with a report that the CFLPA issued an ultimatum to the league on Monday night to follow the protocol related to poor air quality or athletes won't show up. Now, this certainly is important here in Manitoba, but BC, Alberta has certainly had some issues when it comes to air quality. And here's an interesting note from Dunk. Since the CFL let Kevin McDonald go, he was the league's VP of football operations and player safety. There's been no individual replacement tasked solely with the players' health and safety, and that's made it difficult for the union to trust that the league's always had the players' health in mind, especially after what happened with the Achilles injuries at the beginning of the Riders camp. So anyways, the Bombers not on the field today, likely won't be tomorrow. We'll see what that does. But I guess if there's one team that continue to the Bombers, they may be set up best to, to get through that going forward. Anyways, I know one guy that can fill us in on all of that. And that, of course, is our good friend, Darrin Bauming. You can find him now covering the Blue Bombers, always on his Twitter feed at Darrin Bauming, but also at his new venture, Bonfire Sports. CFL 360 coming up with Jeff Hamilton, and of course, incredible coverage throughout training camp. And we'll get Bauming to jump on with us right now for a little more on the Bombers. I've been away for a few days. We need updates on what's going on. DB, how are you? Oh, wow, that's an incredible background you've got. We love the other set. You got a new studio today for Bonfire Sports or what?
Yeah, mixing things up a little bit. Got to keep the visual appeal there for people to keep tuning in. But, living the 2021 life, hustler, sweatpants and collared dress shirts. It's the combo of the decade right now, at least the beginning of it. But looking forward to talking with you. And I'm excited. I'm going to call you later and get the 411 on your trip to Aikens.
Absolutely. Lots of good times, some little brown jugs, a few other beers, and lots of fish. But again, through that, a lot going on this weekend. We got the Jets expansion draft list in the weekend, which we've talked about quite a bit. But we've also got a championship football team looking to get back on the field. Hey, listen, before we get to everything that's happened on the field, and frankly, what's not happening today, I know you're quite tuned in with the Bomber office. A lot of excited people around there about the response of fans to the ability to get back into the field. I think there was some, even with the double vaxxed rules or whatever, there was a lot of people that were wondering how many fans would really be feeling comfortable, get ready to go through it. And this is a conversation we had a year ago. I don't know whether it's pandemic fatigue or what, but I'm not hearing a lot of hesitancy amongst my crew. Everyone wants to be there for August 5th, and Bomber fans responded big time yesterday and today so far with their ticket purchases. And man, that's great news for the Bombers and the CFL. And you'll hope that will be replicated in some of these other markets.
Well, like I said on social media a couple of weeks ago, when the province and the city and everybody, made it public that we can see a capacity crowd, 33,000 plus at IG Field for that Grey Cup rematch as the CFL season gets going August 5th here in Winnipeg, that this to me is the event, maybe even the Canadian sporting event of the year. You know, we had partial crowds in other NHL cities and that sort of thing in Montreal through the playoff run, but this is a Grey Cup rematch. This is game one of the season. This is Thursday Night Football on TSN, and 33,000 plus possible to be in the building. It's going to be a celebration of the football team. I think it's also a celebration of finally getting back to a semblance of normality and doing something that I know everyone watching here loves to do, and that's watch sports live, in person, thousands of fans, the smells, the sights, the sound, and that energy you feel in your chest when you're in that crowd. So if you're comfortable and you're double vaxxed, I see no reason why you wouldn't want to be there. If there's one game to go to this season prior to November playoff run, I think it's August 5th in Winnipeg.
Dude, I'm 100% with you. And I'm also quite interested. And this is something, and maybe I'm just hoping that this will happen, because I think there's enough Bomber fans out there that want to be there, that already were fans, that were fired up about the Grey Cup and everything that we went through. But I'm really hoping there's lots of new faces in that building. I'm hoping there's people that, I'm double vaxxed. I haven't done a damn thing in 2 years. Let's get out to the game. And hopefully that creates more people, because that's one thing the Canadian Football League needs to do. And it's not easy. I mean, first of all, you got to gain the trust that people are safe and they'll come out to the events. But if you can maybe introduce a few more people with the excitement about the return of the 3-down game, I think that can be something that'll be really beneficial. I think it'll happen here in Winnipeg. But again, Darrin, when you're talking about people around the league, they're not worried about Winnipeg. They're not worried about the opening week crowds in Saskatchewan or frankly, even Alberta. It's right. Some of these other markets. And, big picture for the league, what happens this year, any sort of a bounce back in Toronto, Montreal, BC would be, is really what this Canadian Football League needs going forward.
I took a note you mentioned here on Winnipeg Sports Talk a number of weeks ago, and I thought it was a great perspective that you shared, Hustler, that this could be a renaissance time for the Canadian Football League. I took that idea and I ran with it, and I mentioned it on a variety of media outlets that I was visiting prior to training camp. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And, I've covered the Blue Bombers and the CFL for a decade now. So when you're at a house party or meeting people for the first time, what do? I cover the Bombers and the Jets. Oh, what's that like? They're curious. My question for them immediately is, how interested are you in the Blue Bombers? Do you go to games? What's your interest level? And I think for a lot of people I've spoken with, they love football. They enjoy watching the games. They like going. But maybe they haven't in a number of years, or maybe those first couple years where the traffic was an issue getting in and out of IG Field. By the way, no longer. It's much better than it has been. Quick caveat, get there early on August 5th, because it's going to take some time to get everybody in and out of the building. But I think a lot of people have been hesitant to go to CFL games in years past. Now it's almost like, hey, we haven't had this opportunity in nearly 2 years. And you have a Grey Cup champion to cheer on. So the Blue Bombers are going to be an entertaining product. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are in town. Like, there's your Vegas favorites to win the Grey Cup this year. I think for a lot of people, this is an opportunity to maybe get reacclimated with the football club, jump on the bandwagon a little bit. Some fair weather fans, it's a reality. They're out there. Others are diehard and they'll go through the good times and the bad. Some others just want to see a winner. Well, there's a winner on the field now. And I think it's really just going to increase interest, let alone the single game betting and all of that. What is this? Canadian football? Let's throw some money down. I think that's a possibility, a distinct possibility as well. So
certainly what we'll hope on. Darrin Bauming's with us from Bonfire Sports TV, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, talking CFL and Bomber training camp. Let's get to a couple of the big stories of the last couple days since we've spoke last. Mercy Maston. I mean, these Achilles injuries, listen, it wasn't 4 and 10 minutes like what happened to Saskatchewan, but, every year it seems like there's 1 or 2 significant injuries. And unfortunately for the Bombers, they got one. Talk to us about the injury and what this does. He leaves some pretty big shoes to fill, considering the way he played in that run in 2019.
Yeah, it's peculiar with these Achilles injuries. Obviously, those 4 Rough Riders in a 10-minute span doing like an off-field drill prior to training camp. And here's Mercy Maston. And for those unfamiliar with Mercy Maston, Mike O'Shea stated clearly yesterday that Mercy was one of those critical pieces of that Blue Bombers run on defense to the 107th Grey Cup championship. Versatile piece, plays with a real physical edge and kind of suited for that strong side linebacker or dime back spot, unlike any other. Now, yesterday following practice, we knew Mercy was out and that the team had traded for Alden Darby, a 3-year vet from the Toronto Argonauts, to maybe shore things up with some experience at defensive back here in Winnipeg. That the two players that we were talking with both had close connections to Mercy Maston. First, we spoke to Rashid Bailey, the receiver, and he stated how Mercy got hurt late in practice guarding him on a drill. And, it's tough to see a guy go down like that. You have this long layoff for these CFL players. Mercy had an opportunity to try out in the NFL. Nothing really happened for him, but he's been waiting to play football for a long time. You bust your butt, you get into shape, and then 9 days into camp, your season is done. That has to be a huge hit. Then we spoke with Nick Taylor, very close friends with Mercy Maston. They played together in Edmonton prior to coming to Winnipeg, and they spent a lot of the offseason together as well. You started to see the emotion in Mercy Maston's teammates of how hard a hit this is. That's the personal side. Then you look at the football side. Winnipeg has a lot of good, talented defensive backs, rookies in training camp. Those guys, they're going to need somebody, one at least, to step up. Where does Alden Darby fit into all of this? I thought it was smart of Kyle Walters to make that trade quickly on Sunday night and announce it Monday morning. Is he a safety? Is he a corner? The positive in all this, Hustler, is that Richie Hall preaches versatility. So the Blue Bombers are well prepared right now to shuffle the deck. Maybe Brandon Alexander moves around. Maybe they move Nick Taylor. It could be a variety of different things that they do. But we'll have to see when they hit the field on Wednesday because of today and all the smoke in the air. No practice, as you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, Willie Jefferson apologized on Twitter for bringing the smoke a little too early for everybody. We'll have to wait till the 5th of August to see what he's got for us going forward. Darrin, the other story around training camp and the Bombers, of course, is the massive shoes to fill of Justin Medlock. And we spoke, at the beginning of training camp, and it was very interesting, and I think in some ways telling, that the Bombers brought 100 players to camp and only one kicker. Mark Leggio, from the sounds of it, has sort of had an up and down camp so far. And apparently the Bomber Brass has decided maybe we should have a competition after all and assigned a veteran kicker as well. Fill us in on Leggio's camp and the signing of Tyler Krapina today.
Yeah, I have a new piece on this on bonfiresports.ca coming up in just about 45 minutes. But I speak to some of those details about Mark Leggio and then who Tyler Krapina is. It's been interesting through these first 10 days of training camp, Huss, because the Blue Bombers have been clear, even prior to training camp. Mark Leggio is the guy, and that the Blue Bombers state clearly they have confidence in him to be the guy. Well, through 9 days of camp, we've seen some good and we've seen some bad. I've seen Mark Leggio hook some kicks. I've seen him miss. He hasn't been short too often, definitely has the leg strength, both place kicking and punting. Maybe punting is where the Blue Bombers are most comfortable with him here in the early going, at least maybe going into the season. You add in Tyler Krapina, a 5-year CFL vet, most recently with Toronto in the 2019 season, cut by Montreal just 48 hours ago, joining their training camp, part of the Boris Beatty trade. And Krapina, well, yeah, he punted in college. Who didn't if you're a kicker in U Sports, but has not punted much at all in the CFL through 5 years. So does this mean that the Blue Bombers want to have a kicking duo like seasons past where you have two true specialists? Or does Tyler Krapina really coming in to push Mark Leggio, maybe flick some sort of mental switch that he needs to do? It's tough when you're a young rookie, making that, you have all the physical tools, but it's those mental challenges that go into turning pro. So again, we're going to see on Wednesday. We're going to see on Wednesday for sure what these guys have. And sorry about the phone ringing there. It's been crazy busy day. The Legio news, the Mercy Maston news, trades and signings the Blue Bombers have had. We're finally going to get a chance to see these new guys on the field in the coming days. That's what I'm.
Well, it might take a couple days though, of course, because no practice day. And it was interesting. The 3-down guys sort of, inferring that the CFLPA said, no practice today. Based on the air quality. I would suggest that the Bombers, maybe to Ticats of all the teams, could probably handle a couple off days more than some of these other teams with so many new players. Yeah. Nevertheless, it is a wrinkle for the Bombers as they look. And as I said, texting with Darrin Cameron just before we went on, wondering where everything was at. They can do some indoor walkthroughs and whatnot, but not much else to do. And listen, I mean, I guess if you're Mike O'Shea and Kyle Walters, you just have to say, we'll deal with it going forward. But
it's tough with preseason games too, right? Like we saw the Blue Bombers cut down their roster pretty heavily on Monday evening ahead of that 75-man roster deadline that the CFL has. And one of those guys was quarterback Dalton Sneed. He was signed well over a year ago, nearly a year and a half ago, a player I thought the team was extremely high on. Well, you move on from one quarterback. That gives Drew Brown of Oklahoma State and the University of Hawaii a little bit more time at reps in practice, because without a preseason, it's really tough for a lot of these young guys not to just pop off the page, but to show what they have in real live bullets when they're flying. As far as Alden Darby joining this team, as well as Tyler Carpina, they're going to need 4 days of quarantine here in Winnipeg before they're able to join their new Blue Bombers teammates. So that's another delay. But as far as the smoke situation, first and foremost, you hope everybody in southeastern Manitoba and beyond, northwestern Ontario as well, is safe. And, right now, if you got to go for your evening walk, maybe just walk around your house, because it's tough to breathe out there. Imagine being an athlete running around the field.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Darrin Bauming with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, talking Blue Bomber camp. Just before we finish up, I've got to ask you, DB. I mean, you mentioned about all the guys that were cut, and Dalton Sneed was the guy I was going to ask you about, but pretty clear. I mean, he ended up being 4th on the depth chart, and that means you're looking for a job. Any other newcomers that Bomber fans are not familiar with that, have sort of made a name for themselves or stood out so far that you and the media that have had the opportunity to see these guys play have been talking about?
Going to pull my cheat sheet down here, Hustler.
Get the chart. Get the chart.
I was a little bit surprised to see Otha Peters Jr., a rookie American linebacker the team was apparently high on. He was part of the cuts. But defensive back, Dietrich Nichols led the XFL in interceptions in that shortened 2020 season. DeAndre Alford and Christian Angulo, 2 guys that were getting first-team reps pretty early in camp. Jeremiah Johnson, another guy, he was filling in for Mercy Maston on Monday following that injury to him. The receivers, there's a lot of guys. And sometimes, if Zach Collaros is throwing you the ball, probably an easier one to catch because it's right on the money. He has been impressive through the first week and a half of camp. Blake Jackson, Carlton Agadosi, we heard from him the other day, 6'6", 220 pounds, and definitely has his head on his shoulders too. Really, appreciated his mentality. Cam Meredith, I know you guys have had him here on the program, an NFL pedigree there, and has not practiced for about a week now. But again, as Chris Walby says, you can't make the club from the tub, so they're hoping for him to get healthy. I'm seeing Charles Nelson do more now than I've ever seen before, and he's been here in Winnipeg in seasons past. I think he is a bit of an X factor in all of this, because while we focus on the rookies, there's Charles Nelson, whose 2019 season ended really early because of injury and did not play at all the rest of the way. He's really opening some eyes and doing some things at camp. John Terrell Rockamore is a linebacker that is blowing the Blue Bombers' socks off, had a huge play picking off Zach Collaros in skeleton tree passing drills a couple days ago. Really interesting cat, somebody that went to Utah State. So he's been talking to former Utah State alum Chris Randall about the things to be focused on when being in the CFL. It's a different game. You got to be able to run. Some of these linebackers are pretty bulked up because they've been trying to make it into the NFL. You come to the CFL, you better be able to go sideline to sideline.
No doubt about it, DB. Hey, listen, this has been awesome. We'll look forward to catching up with you again in the coming weeks before the 5th of August. And I guess for you and everyone else covering Blue Bomber Camp, you'll just wait for an alert or an email, let you know what's going on for tomorrow. Because as we mentioned, Bombers had to shut it down outside today. And considering the air quality in and around Winnipeg right now, probably likely that might be the case for at least another day.
Yeah, no question. I know the Bombers probably don't care because they play on artificial field turf, but nice to see a little bit of rain. Hopefully we get a little bit more of that as well, and all of this smoke can begin to clear.
Amen to that, folks. Fill people in on where they can find all the work you're doing covering the Bomber training camp and CFL right now when on Bonfire.
Bonfiresports.ca is your one stop. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Winnipeg Sports Talk and Bonfire Sports as well. YouTube.com/Bonfire Sports. And looking forward to launching CFL 360 in the coming weeks. We're definitely going to get that going prior to week 1 in the CFL. But got daily reports, nearly daily reports out of training camp right now with all the news and notes you need on the Blue Bombers.
Hey, the new background is a hit. Alvin Bale. Looking at the background and wondering what international spy organization DB is involved with.
It's a dark site.
What is that? Like, it is really cool.
So like these are just cheap little sound dampening panels. You get them on Amazon or wherever, but they look good. So you just kind of stick them up there, and I hope it just reduces the echo a little bit. Camera quality and microphone quality. Job number 1 in this new era of digital media, Huss. You know that.
Well, you know what? Camera quality, video quality, and puppies and babies, and we've had 3 of the 4 today. With Jim Toth debuting his little guy on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So
nice.
If you're listening to the podcast, big day to check out the program on YouTube today, and make sure to give us a sub when you do that. Bauming, thanks for doing this, man. Let's catch up again very soon. We'll pop on maybe sometime next week when you got some time for a little more update. And my God, what is it, 2 weeks Thursday? We'll be rolling into IG Field, getting ready to get everything behind us and get back on the football field with the Grey Cup rematch between the Bombers and Ticats.
Seems like yesterday we were waiting for July 10th and camp to start. Now, well, hey, the season's about to go. Really excited. Good to be on with you, Huss. Be well.
Hey, thanks, pal. There he is, Darrin Bauming, at Darrin Bauming with an I on Twitter. And, of course, at Bonfire Sports TV is the Twitter account. You can check the link, but if you're not already following and subscribing to Bomber content, and, of course, we'll look forward to the debut of CFL 360 with Bauming and, of course, Jeff Hamilton. And we'll talk to Hammer, I think, later on this week as well. Big thanks to Darrin for doing that. Hey, before we get to our cool bet lines and get Remis back in here, if you're with us on chat right now, you can see that Streamlabs tweet. The link is right there for the Winnipeg Sports Talk store. We've got t-shirts and hoodies right now. We will be getting some hats, hopefully in the next few weeks as those get made. But right here, there's the logo t-shirt, Winnipeg Sports Talk. We appreciate everyone that has, purchased something so far. And most importantly, wearing it out. We've had a lot of people saying people are wondering what it is, they hadn't heard about it. So certainly to have so many of our loyal listeners and viewers repping WST out in the community helps even more people find out about it. And the quality is great on this. Absolutely love it. So, and if you're listening right now, you're wondering where you can get it. If you're listening on the podcast, just go to winnipegsportstalk.com. There's a store bit for you. You'll get it done quickly out to you, delivered at home. Shipping's included if you're in Canada. So certainly appreciate that. All right, let's get Remis back in here. We do have to get some picks for tonight's races at Assiniboia Downs. And we also need to do some cool bet lines. And we'll start off with the NBA Finals. But before that, let me ask you, Remis. I'm not sure if you caught the game on Saturday. I, of course, was not anywhere with television. How about this run, though, that the Bucks are on? And it's all seemingly about Giannis Antetokounmpo and now Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. The other pieces of what they envisioned their big three have stepped up big time. And the Bucks are one win away from winning their first NBA championship since the early 1970s.
Yeah, Milwaukee, they're fired up. Could end the drought, and this is what Giannis wanted to do when he signed there long term. I remember there was speculation, would he sign with the Raptors? He had that relationship with Masai Ujiri, but he stayed in Milwaukee. They're partying. They're pretty exciting stuff, and I thought he was hurt. I thought he had a knee injury coming into this, and they're still counting down when he does his free throws, but I mean, it doesn't really matter when you can do everything else that he can. So they can end it tonight. Would be crazy to see a championship team in Milwaukee, of all places. But good for them, and we'll be tuning in. I think they're still a favorite, are they not?
They are. It's just changed actually, literally in the lab. Just brought it up, and it was 4.5, and now the spread has moved all the way to 6, although plus 112. So it's probably in at about -5, 5.5 right now. The money line, if you're just thinking the Bucks will win, -179 to win the championship tonight. The Suns to extend it to a game 7 is plus 154. And if you do think the Suns can come back and win the series price on the Suns is over 3-1, plus 313 for the Suns to win tonight and get a game 7 win back in Phoenix if necessary. Bucks right now -417 to win the championship, and obviously heavy chalk on Giannis Antetokounmpo, -400 to be the NBA's finals most valuable player. I guess if you do think that the Suns are going to come back, as opposed to going on the 3-1 on the Suns for the series, you might want to hit Devin Booker at plus 575 and Chris Paul at plus 650 to win the MVP, the finals MVP. Inconceivable to think that one of those two guys wouldn't win it if they were able to come back. So all of that's there at coolbet.com. One other line, Remo, I wanted to point out to you, and we'll have some more time to dive into this next week and, right before CFL kickoff. But if you go down to the most passing yards for the Canadian Football League's regular season, and we've talked about this before, Cody Fajardo, a 2-1 favorite to win. Bo Levi Mitchell is plus 265. And you go to Vernon Adams and Trevor Harris and Jeremiah Masoli, you have to go all the way down to Zach Collaros at 13-1. And, I kind of talked about this last week, as camp started, thinking that, the Bomber offense is going to look a lot different this year. Zach Collaros played 4 games. It was the final game of the regular season with the Darvin Adams, touchdown in the back of the end zone. And then 3 playoff games where often the Bombers focused on running the football. They would bring Strevler in and out. All of that's different this year. And from all accounts at camp, Collaros is looking great. And the Bombers are going to have a much more pass-happy attack this year, which I think is logical considering, the makeup of the roster and most importantly, the guy behind center. So I have to tell you, Reem, I got in today. It's on Zach Collaros at 13-1. Listen, the Bombers, I know they won the Grey Cup as the 9th passing team in the 9-team league. That's not happening this year. That was a very unique, special football team, and a big part of that was because of the quarterbacks that they'd had. Matt Nichols earlier on, then Strevler, and of course Collaros at the end. But if you listen, injuries can happen and can blow all these things up. But if you tell me that Zach Collaros is going to play the full 14-game season for the Bombers, I think that he'll at least be in the conversation for one of the top passing quarterbacks of the league. Although if the defense is as good as it's been, they might not need to score that many points, and that sometimes can change things as well. But I do think there's value on Collaros at 13-1.
Well, let's just do some math. There's 9 teams in the league. You would think you have a 1 in 9 shot of doing it. So if they're giving you 13-1 odds, sure, do it for fun. I have no idea, how you can project him. He only played a couple games with the Bombers, and we know that they're run heavy. So just from a math perspective, with nine starting quarterbacks, getting 13-1 on anyone, I think is a good deal. So sure, go for that. I'm a Mike Riley guy. He had a horrible O-line. I don't know what they've done to fix it, but I like their receivers. Trevor Harris, you guys were talking about him before. Vernon Adams, he's got a nice group of receivers too, and he can run it in. Bo Levi, I think that's a terrible pick. He never racks up the yards, and I'm kind of surprised Fajardo's at plus 200. So I don't like those top 2. But
and the other funny thing is you got Masoli there at plus 630. We don't even know if Jeremiah Masoli is going to be the quarterback for the Ticats when they show up in the Peg on the 5th of August. And I think that it's very reasonable to think that, we'll see both of those quarterbacks at some point in Hamilton. So, hey, futures when it comes to this, so much is dependent on playing time, ability to continue to play and not get hurt. But to Remis's point, if you think the Bombers are going to be passing a lot more this year and they'll be a good team, probably some value there at Zach Collaros. You can check out all of the CFL lines at coolbet.com. And if you haven't played there before and you want to, make sure to plug in promo code WST. You'll get 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200 with our friends at coolbet.com. Remo, I'm not sure whether this was a joke or whether you were just getting chirped by our friends at Assiniboia Downs, but what happened with the picks last night?
Horrible. I don't know what happened. I don't think I won. And now HPI Bet has like redid their site, and I have to learn how to use it again. I don't know if you've seen this, Huss, but
oh, interesting. No, I was doing the picks off of the racing form that they sent over.
So
today.
you haven't put those in, but yeah, it was bad. It wasn't good. So I'm gonna get back on the horse and try to keep going. But my account, I'm still up. Don't get me wrong. Somehow I'm still up, but I think last Wednesday, the last 2 days last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, I did break pretty much even. So I was treading water, but I'm still up, but not by as much as I was before. I can tell you that.
What do you have prepared for the folks tonight?
All right, let's go with my picks. I had some issues doing Quinellas on the site. I guess they're trying to place everything. I know Mitch from Assiniboia Downs was in talks with the HPI Bet. He CC'd us on the email. I'm going a bit weird here. I'm taking a couple places and shows. Let's see, race 1. Assiniboia Downs called me out on Twitter. Oh wait, that's not Assiniboia Downs. Sorry. See, they've redid the site. It's white now. It's not. It's a bit newer. I think more responsive. I think in the long run it'll be good. You can see it here. But my girl or guy, I don't know. My horse Sophia McTrophy has won money for me before, so I'm on Sophia McTrophy to show. I just love the name. And then I'm on race. Let's go race 7. Horse 10. Miss Falsetto. I want Miss Falsetto to win. I'm doing that one. And then we got race 3. And horse number 3. I Spy with My Little Eye. That's a great game I play with my son. So I will be taking I Spy with My Little Eye to place.
I love the science involved in these picks.
You got to have some kind of, whatever reason you can convince yourself that it's a good pick, you got to do it. And race 5, I'm going to do another one to show. That is 3rd, place is 2nd. I'm learning the terminology here. Horse 3, Young Boy. No reason why, just the math works out. Young Boy to show.
That is in race number 5, eh?
Sorry, race 5, yes. Race 5, horse 3 to show.
All right, excellent. Okay, I've just been paying attention to some of these. I was going off the racing forum, so we'll get these in afterwards. I did come back late last night and realized that I hadn't put in my picks, and I did manage to throw down. We do $20 a night of live racing, so I put 10 down on Quinella, and I was very, very close to my triactor. I missed by one horse. He finished 4th. So I will add in another $10 bet in one of the final races. However, for race number 1, I'm going to do a 2-4 Quinella. Let me just get the names here for it.
Yes, Sizzle and Susie.
Sizzle and Susie and Sophie with Trophy. So Susie and Sophie were riding with them.
Sophie.
Race number 2, we are going with, am I gonna ignore Otani again? I probably shouldn't do that, but I like Captive Kitten and I like Daydreamer. So we're going to throw those 2 in on a parlay. Jeez, Otani's going to probably burn me on that. But anyway, so we'll go $4 on the 2 parlays for the first 2. Now we've got 2 triactors. I like horse Truly and Terrific and Divine Ride in race number 3. And I'm considering who I might change this up. Normally you can just put 3 horses in and they can finish any order. And that's a $6 bet. I think what I might do is put 1 and 4 to finish like 1, 2, 2, 1, and then add in 3 and 6 as 3rd. So I'm not sure how that will change my bet. I think it'll still be in and around $6. We'll see how that works. For race number 4, I do have another triactor. Impressive Sense is number 1. Euro Silver Biz is number 2. And Mr. Snickers is number 5. So we'll do the $6 triactor box on that. So that's 20. I will add in a triactor for race 5. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Young Boy is 3, St. Geezy is number 2, and Dad's a Gambler is number 1. So we'll throw those in, another $6, and I'll put a $4 Quinnell on one of the last couple bets. So we'll do all that, hpibet.com. You can watch the races tonight on Assiniboia Downs live on their YouTube channel. Guys do a great job of that, and it's 6:45. If you want some better advice than our picks, you listen to Kirk and the Stretch. They'll get you ready for the action tonight with information on all of the races, and lots of fun to pop in with the guys in between races for their comments as well. And don't forget, Dining Room is open right now. They've got a couple great things happening right now. Actually, I should get this back up because in addition to the VLTs being open, they've also got a number of things that I think will continue to grow as we get out of this period of these restrictions. Spectators are allowed only on the second level of the facility, and you must make reservations. I have a feeling that has to do with contact tracing. But right now, the 82 VLTs are open from 9 a.m. until 12:15 in the Licensed Club West Gaming Lounge. And they do right now have some great specials on the weekend. The Friday steak special or Saturday prime rib, $24.95 right now is available from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we'll keep you up to date on when people can fill the stands again. And we'll certainly do something coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk when we're able to do that with everyone coming in. Remo, fantasy football players, this is why I hate doing drafts too early, because I have a feeling that Cam Akers probably would have been a very high pick in most drafts this year. And he, like Mercy Maston, like the 4 Riders, Achilles injury, Cam Akers out for the season. It's a tough blow for the Rams, absolutely. But anytime a starting stud running back in the NFL goes out, I immediately think about what that means for fantasy football this season.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And he tore his Achilles. Seems to be, it's not just happening in the CFL, NFL also. And he was great last year, when given the opportunity. But that's what fantasy football is about, opportunity. And someone, I don't know if they're going to go sign someone. He shared last year with Daryl Henderson and Malcolm Brown. I haven't been too up to date with my fantasy football studies. I actually don't do season-long fantasy football anymore. I'm done with it. It's too annoying. So I just stick with the daily, and once week 1 comes around, maybe I'll have a better idea. Maybe they sign a veteran. I'm not too sure, but that sucks. He was promising, was great for them in the playoffs. I remember I took him on DraftKings then, and towards the end of the year. So they really relied on him a lot, and they got Matt Stafford now at quarterback, and big blow to the run game. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Rams there.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, a couple other stories out of hockey yesterday, and I'm sure you and Matt talked about this yesterday. But, really interesting to see the amazing support coming out from around the hockey world after Calgary Hitmen defenseman and Predators prospect Luke Prokop came out as gay yesterday. And, listen, I am and I get it, people going, well, that's great. Why are we talking about it? Well, hopefully down the road, that won't be, it'll be a footnote, if anything, and no one will care. But I will say, for a 19-year-old to come out with the courage to step forward and say, this is me and I'm proud of it and I don't want to hide from it anymore. It isn't really about, listen, there'll be a lot of things that he'll have to deal with going forward, and I'm sure he was prepared, and it sounds like he's got a great support system from his family and friends and teammates and the Preds organization. But the reason why, Reem, this is important is that it really hasn't happened before. And hockey is I don't want to call it a closed society, but there's been a lot of questions about the hockey culture, if you will, if hockey really was for everyone. And I got to tell you, I'll give a lot of credit to a number of players in the National Hockey League who, sent their support out. Jacob Trouba won as well. I'll give Trouba a hat tip. He, of course, was the You Can Play representative here on the Winnipeg Jets before he was traded to the New York Rangers. And do I care about someone's social sexual orientation? Not at all. But, this is not easy. There'll be a lot that comes with it. But I think, Reem, what is most important is that for other players in this situation that have had to maybe change the way they behave, hide things that they thought they really don't have to. And this is, I think, just the start of a number of players, basically telling everyone who they are. It won't be an issue going forward. And, in a year or 2 or 3, hopefully, this will be almost insignificant. And these sort of conversations won't be groundbreaking anymore because, these people will be accepted as they should be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Hassan. I saw Dylan DeMello had a very nice tweet as well. So, players coming out, everyone's being very accepting, and nice to see that he can, be, who he is, true to himself. And, maybe I saw, Brock McGillis, who's a former NHL player who came out, and he said, this will be a huge weight off his shoulders, and, he can come out and maybe improve some performance. And I agree. I mean, doesn't change any of my opinions, but, the stuff is out there. You got to promote inclusivity, and, maybe there's someone out there who is struggling with their identity, who make them feel, more comfortable. So, I think it was a great story and plastered all over, Pierre LeBrun, great interview, 31 thoughts, and a lot of great, journalism on the topic.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about Luke Prokop. And I mean, to have the courage to go out at this point in his career before he's made the NHL, I mean, that just is not something. I mean, I guess Michael Sam would be a comparison about a player that, he was looking to get drafted. The draft happens earlier in hockey. But anyways, I was very pleased with the response, and even the usual mouth breathers and knuckle draggers that say all the stupid things on the internet just to troll people. I didn't really see almost any of that as well. Just wanted to mention, I didn't want to, kind of finish up the program without making mention of it, although I know it was sort of yesterday's news. But in a very different story relating to the draft, interesting, player Logan Milieu has removed himself from the draft, Remis. And he put out a statement. You can see it on tsn.ca, basically a letter to all NHL teams, asking that they do not consider him to be picked this year. Apparently a very talented young prospect, had a chance to go over to Sweden, was involved in a consensual encounter with a woman, but distributed photos of that afterwards. And, she was just looking for a sincere apology from the player. But when you have something like that, it immediately is a massive red flag for NHL teams. And I think many of them had already, I know it's been reported that 9 or 10 teams, when they found that out, immediately struck him off the draft board. He'll be playing for the London Knights this year. I'm not sure whether a team, tries to snag him late as a value pick, or they respect his wishes and, probably the right thing to do, then leave his name off. I mean, when you think about what happened with the Coyotes, was it first round or their first pick, which was a 3rd rounder last year, and they're renouncing the rights to the kid a few days later, you certainly don't want to have that. But, man, 2021, you get some real weird stories. And this is one of them that's sort of a sign of the times that, a terrible decision by a young man that probably wasn't mature and, certainly needs to do a lot of growing up and realize what's wrong and what's right. Will not be an NHL player next year. And, if he has his way, and again, maybe some of this is PR, maybe this is image makeover. But, certainly through his own doings, he's definitely damaged, the way people think of him. And, he as a person has fitting into an NHL locker room, and it sounds like, he'll get what he's asking for and, be able to go back and try and repair his image and who he is as a person. And, for his sake, hopefully get a chance at some point down the road.
Yeah, it was pretty, it seemed like a sincere statement. Obviously what he did, not something that, NHL teams would want to have in their organization. So, he can take some time to mature and grow and maybe become a better player and a better person. So the Athletic did say 11 teams removed him from their list, and we'll see how it goes. Does someone sneak in there and think they're pulling a fast one and get a late pick, or do they respect the wishes of the player Logan Milieu and don't select him? But nice to see him kind of own up, take responsibility, and because we saw a situation like this last year where there was a player who had some personal issues. I think thought they were pretty serious ones, and the Coyotes said,
absolutely.
And it was pretty ridiculous. He's bullying a player who had a disability, I believe, or not a player, a classmate. And the Coyotes said, we're gonna take this guy, and they rightfully got absolutely ripped, and then renounced the pick. So and they see players. I think as much as it helps that you're good at hockey, but you also, I think, teams are valuing the type of person you are as well.
Yeah, and some teams do a little bit more homework on that. Obviously, Arizona, I know some people saying, "Oh, he'll get picked by the Coyotes."
Yeah.
And BA Split said if he's good, he'll get drafted. And again, this might be the case of the agent saying, "Listen, what you did was horrible, and you're paying the price for it right now. And you're a guy that many people think has first-round talent that is going to drop to the 5th or 6th or 7th round. What does that for your earning potential going forward? You're better off just not being in the draft." I don't know. There's probably a lot of layers and levels to this. Like some of it image makeover, some of it PR, some of it putting himself in the best position. Bottom line is what has happened. He was investigated before for what he did in Sweden was unacceptable. And, not a good look, I think, for any NHL team to call that young man's name, especially when you consider what he's put out going forward. That'll be a topic going forward. Big thanks to Carson Lambos for coming on with us. What a nice young man he is, and a very, very exciting prospect, Reeman. We had talked, I remember about a couple years ago, there was the potential that, we thought Lambos could be, definitely a top 10 pick, maybe even a top 5 pick. A tough last year with going over to Finland and then missing all but 2 games of the Western Hockey League season. I think maybe limited his ability to jump into that top 10. But when you have the skating, the offensive ability that Lambos has, and the track record that he has as a young player, I don't think it'll be a surprise at all to hear his name called in the first round. It was interesting to hear him say that he's absolutely thought about the Winnipeg Jets potentially calling his name. And I think that would be an exciting pick for Winnipeg fans, considering the needs on defense. The player and young man he is, but the fact is that, there's been very few local players picked by the Winnipeg Jets in the past, especially high up in the draft. And I think there'd be some people that would really be on side with that pick going forward. But as we know, what the Jets will be doing on Friday night, that's picking the best player available for their organization that they think fits. And sometimes that's not always who the fans want.
Yeah, they need a local kid, Huss. We need a kid from Winnipeg on the Jets. The Bombers have it in Harris and Dembski. There's so many Winnipeg NHLers. In fact, 2 of them got traded for each other on the weekend. Cody Glass and Nolan Patrick. So we need someone on Winnipeg. Come on, let's. Who cares?
That was a wild trade. I meant to bring that up with Jim. And you want to talk about somebody that maybe needs a fresh start. Nolan Patrick. I mean, listen, Philly, they picked him 2nd overall. They thought that they had really hit a home run with him. His career has absolutely been derailed by injuries early on. But he's got, a great track record. I mean, you think about those old Manitoba guys with the Wheaties and Kelly McCrimmon. He's going to get his opportunity in Vegas. But what was interesting, Reem, is that Cody Glass went the other way. And I think that also speaks to maybe some disappointment in Vegas as to what's become of Glass after he was the first ever pick by the franchise, 5th overall, back when Vegas came into the league. And, of course, that was the same year that the Winnipeg Jets moved off their pick down in the draft, picked Vesalainen as part of their arrangement with Vegas. And Vegas moved up and grabbed Nick Suzuki. And I don't think there's any comparison about players right now as NHLers from Glass, who has done almost nothing, in limited time in the league, as opposed to what Nick Suzuki's done is really turning into a budding star. It points to a couple things. The uncertainty of the draft, of course, but also the pressure on, players, like Glass that come in that, maybe get passed by a couple of other guys. So he's going to get a fresh start, as will Nolan Patrick. And, of course, Philly gets their defenseman Ryan Ellis, who did clarify today, Reem, that, it wasn't a shoulder injury that he was dealing with. It was actually a knuckle. So, I think Philly, they've been trying so hard for a solid defenseman that can do many different things. And they thought they had it in Gostisbehere. He's regressed a little bit, although he's still getting paid pretty good money. Ryan Ellis, an interesting bit. And, listen, I know there's the trade freeze right now. We saw quite a few moves on the weekend. And I would think that once the picks are finished tomorrow night for that expansion draft, heading into the draft, we could be talking about some breaking news on this program on Thursdays and Friday shows.
Yeah, Nashville's made a couple interesting moves, trading Arvidsson for a set, 2 draft picks, I think it was 2nd and 3rd. And, looking at their guys they protected, it makes it even more puzzling to me why they would trade Arvidsson, but it seems like they're kind of going through a bit of a retooling, getting Philippe Myers and Nolan Patrick and flipping him for Cody Glass. And Cody Glass, I mean, they tried to plug him in, Huss. With Stone and Pacioretty, Chandler Stevenson, got injured, and they really tried, but for whatever reason, it didn't work. And Nolan Patrick, obviously Kelly McCrimmon, the GM, very familiar with him with the Wheat Kings, so hopefully it works out and he can stay healthy. I think that's important for him. But interesting to point out that Vegas now, they had 3 first-round picks in that draft of their inaugural season. They traded all of them. Cody Glass, Nick Suzuki for the Pacioretty deal, and then Eric Brandstrom in the Stone deal. So they've traded all those first-round picks, and it seems to be working out pretty good for Vegas. One more thing, Huss. The Jets announcing their preseason schedule. We've been waiting for this for a while. Finally, preseason games. And I put out on the Winnipeg Sports Talk Facebook at Canada Life Center. You're wondering, what the hell is that? The artist formerly known as Bell MTS Place, formerly the MTS Center. Yes, it is now the Canada Life Center. And we got, September 26th, a Sunday against Ottawa, all Canadian teams. You got a Wednesday, then a Saturday night. Preseason, Huss. No problem giving Jets a 6 p.m. Saturday night game in the preseason.
No, that's not an issue at all.
Not an issue. October 2nd. And then they go to Vancouver and 2 against Calgary, home and home. So, I don't know. We don't have any details about capacity or anything. We'll kind of wait and see. But they're the preseason schedule.
You know what? And just back to Vegas for a minute while we're talking about local guys. It wasn't just Patrick for Glass in a weird Winnipegger for Winnipegger trade, but they also acquired Brett Howden. Another young guy from Winnipeg, another former first rounder. And of course, Howden was drafted by the Lightning. He moved to the Rangers, I want to say in the Ryan McDonough trade, if I'm not mistaken, and was then been acquired. So Winnipeg guy out, couple Winnipeg guys in, as Vegas sort of does become in some ways Manitoba South come hockey season with the players in the system.
I had a good laugh that they, first of all, that 2 Winnipeg guys were traded for each other, and then Vegas went and acquired Brett Howden. I guess he got kind of, once they got Barclay Goodrow and signed him to some crazy 6-year deal, Brett Howden didn't have a spot anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, that hasn't been done yet, but it certainly sounds like a 6-year deal at $3.6 million for Barclay Goodrow.
That's the Tanev deal.
You know what? That's exactly right. That's the Tanev deal. And, Tanev not protected. I was sort of doing my, a mock, trying to figure out who they would take from each team. And I'll tell you what, Brandon Tanev would be a very popular member of the Kraken right out of the gate if he joined the club.
We got here. I'm on Cap Friendly here. They got the countdown here, and you go interactive, and you can do the simulator, which is very fun just to do, and it is a good exercise. But I always wonder. I'm wondering. You talk about marketing. Obviously, they don't need to sell tickets, but you need a face of the franchise. And when the Jets came back, Andrew Ladd was the captain, and Vegas had Marc-Andre Fleury. He was their franchise player. Who's going to be Vegas's? And looking at these players available, I don't have a very good idea.
It's Carey Price. It's Carey Price if they sign him.
But he's got $10 million a year. I mean, do you want to spend that much on a goalie who's 34 for 5 years? I don't know if you do.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, that's the only reason. That's the only reason. Do you want Carey Price to be your goalie? Well, yeah. But there's a reason why he's available right now. There's some health concerns, and there's that, little detail of $52.5 million owed to him over the course of the next few. I'll tell you what is really intriguing to me, and it's Gabe Landeskog out of Colorado. I mean, Seattle can negotiate with free agents, pending free agents right now. And if they sign that player, that counts as their selection from the club. From all accounts, the negotiations between the Avalanche and Landeskog have not gone smoothly. Looks like Joe Sakic's trying to get him in on a deal that makes sense for the club. And for a guy that's been, the captain since he was 19 years old and such a big part of that organization, I think is feeling somewhat slighted. And that may mean him going to market. And listen, does Landeskog want to just go to the highest bidder? I think Seattle would probably be able to be that. But if you could get a player of that ilk to come in on day number 1, to me, it's a no-brainer that he becomes. He's not just one of these, traditional expansion team captains. It's the guy that's been in the league for 15 years and is a leader going forward. This would be a player that would be a core piece of theirs for the duration of what would likely be a 7-year deal.
Yeah, sounds like Landeskog is on his way out of Colorado. Maybe St. Louis. I heard he's good buddies with O'Reilly from his days with the Avs. So that is something to watch, and maybe Landeskog is one. I know we're running down. Did you have an update today on the Gold Eyes? Wayne Jones was asking. You were talking to me. Did you?
Yes, I was. Put it this way. We will have Andrew Collier on in the next couple of days. Hopefully, as long as everything is, I do believe they've got a pretty good idea about the agreement of what will take for the Gold Eyes to come back. But I think there's some things that need to be covered over the course of the next 48 hours. And as soon as that is good to go, we will have him on the program, and we'll let you know. I am really crossing my fingers that when we get into August, not only will we have the Bombers and Ticats and the CFL back, but we'll be able to squeeze out a few homestands down at Shaw Park for the Fish, who we're missing greatly as they play down in Tennessee. Hey, shout out Destruction is in here. Shout out Mark Sports Video, a great moment tip. Thursday, Victory Lane Speedway is opening as well. And Remo, that's big for us because, of course, that's the first chance that racing fans will be able to see our guy Rick Delane and Delane Racing rock the Winnipeg Sports Talk logo out at the track.
Yes, let me just pull it up right here. Hold on, I have his Instagram. He posted some pictures yesterday of that car, and it's ready to go at Victory Lane. Hold on, I got this thing right here. There we go.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this so far, of all the cool things that have happened to us so far,
This is the coolest.
Us getting involved with Rick's car. Remis has been in that car. We did some photos.
I went in.
It's loud. It grinds. It's anyways, this is going to be great. So official good luck from the entire Winnipeg Sports Talk crew to Delane Racing. We cannot wait to get out there. And if you are a fan of the track, it sounds like Victory Lane is opening on Thursday for the first time. So get to their website for any details as far as if you have to be double vaccinated, pricing, and all that. But we'll be out there at some point cheering on our buddy Rick Delane. BA saying no FA, you will get picked. Well, yeah, no. Well, I mean, right now they're just signing Chris Dreger. I'm not BA. You might be mistaken, but like they can talk to the UFAs right now and sign them. If they sign them before they get to market, that counts as their selection. So, assuming that Chris Dreger is signed, as all the reports saying that they're closing in on a deal at $3.35 million, he'll be a goalie for them. That will count as their selection from Colorado or from Florida. If they do the same thing with Landeskog and they can get some sort of an agreement that he is the player, they will do that. That will count as Colorado's pick. So that can happen before the expansion draft. And if not, they'll go forward into free agency and, could still potentially sign those deals. It'll be very, very interesting going on it. All right. So it's been a great show. I mean, big thanks to Carson Lambos for coming on. Of course, Darrin Bauming, and great to see Toth and his growing young family with us as well in the program. If you're listening on the podcast, definitely check that out on YouTube. If you haven't already, folks, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up before you leave and make sure you are subscribed. We're getting close to 5,000. There will be confetti going off on the program, and we will certainly have some great giveaways to do that. So make sure you're subscribed before we get to that number. And otherwise, Reem, tomorrow's the big day. Seattle Kraken Expansion Draft. Scott Billix is going to join us. We'll talk about all things as it relates to the Winnipeg Jets going into the expansion draft and the draft. And Remo, I think what we're both going to have to do before tomorrow's show is do our own mock drafts and compare them on tomorrow's show. We won't have another opportunity to do mock expansion drafts for a long, long time. So we better get in before it goes down tomorrow night.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to, and maybe we'll see who picks the most correct. So that actually is not a bad plan. And I know the insiders are working hard on digging up the information. We did have that video of the fish, and now them at the Pike Place Market with a fish, saying Kerfoot was the play. Although the Kraken said there were multiple takes, but we don't have multiple videos, so I don't believe that for a second.
Here's a video. You can clip this, see if we film everyone. The Seattle Kraken select Sammy Niku.
there's your Niku signed numbered card. What's the value on that card?
I think it's like $20 or $30. I mean, it's the rookie from the Upper Deck clear cut after he just played the one game. And yeah, it's 48 out of 83. That's not going anywhere though. That's going to be a family heirloom, remembering the Sami Niku era in Winnipeg, if of course he does move on. Anyways, folks, thanks to everyone for being with us. Big thanks to Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend, Boston Pizza, Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Royal Sports, Aikens Lake. Matt had such a great time. Thanks again, Pitt, Julie, Pat Janelle, all the great people up at Aikens, and of course the Cinnaboy Downs. We'll get off. Make sure we get those picks in on hbibet.com. We'll check out the races tonight on the track and Cool Bet Canada. Once again, thank you to Rowicki and Matt Leibel for filling in for a couple days. It is great to be back. Thanks to everyone in chat for the warm welcome. And a shout out to my guy, Michael Remis, for making it happen for a couple days while I was away and continuing to be the brains of the operation as the CTO. Big show tomorrow, all on the expansion draft. We'll have the latest news from Bomber practice. Scott Billick's going to join us. We'll do our mock drafts. We'll decide, and then we'll find out whether it will be DeMello, Appleton, a deal, something else. Going to be a very fun day tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Folks, thanks for being with us. Thanks to the sponsors. If you're listening on the podcast and you made it this far, give us a little rate and review. Always helps on Apple Podcasts. And as always, hit that like button on your way out. Folks, have a great night tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Great to be back.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.